Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody, anywhere you are in. Welcome to our second international e-public forum as a part of the 2021 International Online Summer Course on Jogja World Batik Cities. That for this year, we're focusing on the themes of balancing creative economic and heritage Saujana conservations to foster sustainable development goals. We are very honored today that we have very remarkable speakers all over the globe. We have Professor Ken Taylor from Australia, Dr. Renata Bornberg from Austria, Vienna, from TU Wien, Dr. Siti Nurul Rofiko from Gajah Mada University. She's a landscape architect. And then Dr. Helene NJOTO from France, Paris. And then Dr. Dwita Hadi RAHMI, architects from Department of Architecture and Planning, Universitas Gajah Mada, Yogyakarta. And today's forum will be moderated by Professor Dr. Baikuni, Master of Art, Professor in the Faculty of Geography, UGM Yogyakarta, Indonesia. And we are very honored that today the forum will be opened officially by Dr. Insinyur Revianto Budi Santosa, Master of Arts, Architects. And he is the chairman of the Cultural Councils, Yogyakarta Special Regions. He is also Associate Professor in Department of Architecture, Faculty of Civil Engineering and Planning, Indonesian Islamic University, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. He published several remarkable books, such as Oma, The Productions of Meanings in Javanese Domestic Settings, and many more. Okay, let's start. And now I would like to invite Dr. Revianto Budi Santosa to open these forums. Time is yours, Mas Revi, monggo.
Okay, oh, what a wonderful occasion. Thank you very much, Mbak Yusita Laratna Tresnantari, inviting me to attend and give a great chance for me to meet all of the distinguished guests and speakers all over the world, as if distance doesn't matter now. And in this situation, we are united to share our concern, thought, and insight, as well as inspiration on how to deal with the Saujana heritage, as well as the remarkable batik that we are all love and adore. First of all, on behalf of the Cultural Council of Yogyakarta Special Province, I would like to extend the congratulation to congratulate all of you for this second international forum on summer. Is it summer now?
Almost summer, but in Indonesia, always summer.
Yeah, it's always summer. So yes, it's always correct in Indonesia when it's the summertime is on the organic craft and Saujana heritage conservation. It is a delicate balance between fostering the creative economy as well as to maintain the sustainable development. because one cannot access without the other. But if one is moved too fast, then might the rest is like leave behind. So it is very important to devise a strategy as well as to pay much concern on such issues. And don't forget, today is May Day, so we are also have very much concern about to the excellent craftsmen and women, especially who are working diligently on creating such a splendid pieces of fabrics, which we call batik. They are also part of this effort, as well as they are the real master of this craft. So again, I wish that all the success, and I believe this forum will be beneficial to the international collaboration, as well as to foster many local initiatives in improving the creative economy, as well as maintaining the Saujana heritage. But it is related to many things, so we are not preserving pieces of cloth, but we are preserving the spirit, preserving the network of society, as well as preserving the beautiful cultural landscape. Okay, thank you, Busita. And in this occasion, I officially open this forum and wish all the success and to have a beneficial result. Thank you.
Terima kasih, matur nuwun. Thank you,
Sami-sami.
Pak Revi. But before we go to the discussion and panelists, let's take pictures, all of us.
Okay.
So please open all your video. We would like to see all of you, and we will take a pictures. Silahkan semuanya yang akan memimpin. Mbak, ya, silakan. Oke. Done. Okay, done. Thank you, matur nuwun Mas Revi. And now I would like to invite Professor Dr. Muhammad Baikuni, Master of Arts. He is a professor in Faculty of Geography, Universitas Gadjah Mada, and he was graduated in the field of hydrology, in his Bachelor of Science and Geography. And then Institute of Social Studies in Den Haag for Master of Arts and Development Studies, and from UGM in Sandwich with Utrecht University, the Netherlands, for Doctor in Geography. He was an NGO activist in the Institute for Rural Technology Development, Urban Forum, Ideas, Institute of Development and Environment Studies, INSIS, Indonesian Society for Social Transformations, and Kalam Eco-Village Communities. So, Pak Baikuni,
yes,
time is yours now to lead the forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sita, Laretna Shakti, my friend, and all the participants, especially the speakers. Today we are very happy because we meet online in this forum. We will talk about organic craft and Saujana heritage conservation. It is very important, just only talking about the material of the clothes, batiks, but also system, the culture and philosophy of the issues of we can discuss today. Yogyakarta is designated as World Batik City in the World Craft Council on October 2014. in China. The distinctive character of Jogja batik that originally an organic craft cannot be separated from the quality of surrounded Saujana heritage or cultural landscape of the Yogyakarta special province. As you know, the Yogyakarta is part of Java Island in Indonesia, surrounded by the very active volcano of Merapi and Merbabu. And in this context, we have some cultural heritage like Borobudur and Prambanan Temple, Hindu and Buddhism temple, was back in 1200 years ago or 1200 years ago. The civilization in here is very prosperous with the harmony between link the human and nature. Now we are facing the global internet and IT technology, the digital technology, that we can interact from Jogja as a batik city to other city in Australia, in Europe, in United States or other world. And we will discuss the second international public forum. It is the part of 2021 International Online Summer Course on Jogja World Batik City. And this forum focuses on organic craft and Saujana heritage conservation. It's aimed to explore the strengthen of development potential local organic craft as the sustainable architecture or creative economy and its impact to the Saujana conservation, linking the agro forest and also the natural element of the flora and fauna in this region, linked to the economic craft and also creative industry rooted in the culture of the people. It will also elaborate the potential utilization of heritage to make the cities and human settlement inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable for current and future generation. It is related to the Sustainable Development Goals. Number 11, for example, related to the sustainable city and communities, and also integrated heritage, a starting point of source of inspiration for sustainable production and consumption, as mentioned in SDGs number 12. It is also linked with other SDGs goals that we should try to connect and to engage the collaboration between actors and between the sector as well as the actor of development. Now we go to the panelists, and the first panelist I will introduce Professor Ken Taylor. He is honorary professor at the Center for Heritage and Museum Studies, Research School of Humanities and Arts, the Australian National University, Canberra. He will talk about the concept of Saujana in his work. As I try to see Professor Ken Taylor, Bachelor of Art in Geography in Sheffield University, and then goes to the Diploma Town Planning in Manchester, Master of Landscape Architecture in Melbourne, and PhD in Deakin. So he has also the background with, as well as with me as geographer. Hopefully we will get the link between the human nature as a very important issue to discuss related to our topic today. Now, Professor Ken, time is yours. Please open your mic and video. Thank you. You have 30 minutes for presenting the ideas and experience. Please.
My PowerPoint's disappeared. Oh gosh. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
we can.
My PowerPoint's disappeared. It's gone off the screen.
Can you send it to me from your email, and then we can open it for you too?
Yeah, I don't know where it's gone.
Or we can change the time. Maybe now
the next
Renata first, and then after that you find your PowerPoint.
I think just give me 2 minutes.
Okay, okay.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
Not yet. Maybe take time. Just 1 or 2 seconds.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
Not yet. Maybe you have to share. Have you shared the screen?
Well, here we are. I've got it back.
Okay.
Great. Now.
Great. Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay, I'm terribly sorry about that. I don't know what happened. But thank you so much for that lovely introduction, and also for inviting me to speak at this important meeting. It goes back to 2003 when the first Charter of Indonesian Heritage was launched in Indonesia in 2003, and the idea of Saujana. And I was there, so 18 years later, here I am talking to colleagues and students about this. The other thing I want to say is what is quite remarkable is the way the whole idea of the cultural landscape has infiltrated our thinking and practice in heritage, cultural heritage, particularly this link between people and landscape and intangible aspects of our lives. And this is what I want to talk about this afternoon, this interaction between the cultural landscape construct and intangible heritage. So, since the mid-1980s, there's emerged the idea of cultural landscapes being worthy of heritage conservation action. And it's a movement that embraces an extraordinary array of landscapes, from everyday landscapes to the international level of World Heritage. And in this opening shot, apart from showing, I managed to find the copy from 2003 of the Charter. On the left-hand side, your own photographs of batik making and the whole spirit of what this means. On the other side, the World Heritage city of Hoi An, famous for its lampshades and so on, and they are seeing them hanging up in a shop on the main street. So this rethinking on what's important to us, not just famous places but ordinary places, is linked to a focus on heritage, focusing on famous places, famous monuments and sites. This is not to say that these are not important, they are, but until the late 80s, these were considered to be the most important. And certainly when the World Heritage Convention and list came about in the 70s, it was anticipated that these are the sort of sites that places, properties that would be on the World Heritage List, the famous ones. We all love to visit them when we can, and they are important. But the whole idea of cultural landscapes has seen a shift away from what Richard Engelhardt nicely referred to a number of years ago as heritage concentrating wholly on the 3 Ps of princes, poets, princes, priests, and politicians, to include people in heritage. And linked to this has been the question of whose values are we addressing in cultural heritage conservation, and particularly those of the 4th P, the people who inhabit the places in which we are interested. And this concern with people is a central part of the international move to a cultural, i.e. a people-centered approach to cultural heritage conservation, and including the things that people make and think and create. So inextricably linked to a cultural concept of landscape is the understanding that one of our deepest needs is for a sense of identity and belonging. And a common denominator in this is human attachment to landscape and how we find identity in landscape and place. So cultural landscape study has been coincidental with a widening interest in public history, the public history movement, and everyday places, everyday landscapes. It underpins the notion that landscapes reflecting everyday ways of life, the ideologies that compel people to create places, and the sequence or rhythm of life over time tell the story of people, events, and places through time. They offer a sense of continuity, a sense of what Kevin Lynch years ago beautifully called a sense of the stream of time, the past, the present, and also looking into the future. They also offer the context for broader concepts and understanding of cultural heritage than the monuments and sites approach. And they fit with another geographer's idea that landscape, Cosgrove, that landscape is not what we see, but a way of seeing. And in this sense, landscape is not simply or overwhelmingly a product, it's a process in which humans create landscapes, cultural landscapes, where our human landscape is our unwitting biography, reflecting our tastes, our values, our aspirations, and even our fears in tangible, visible form. Just a little story about the picture on the top right there. This picture here. It's a number of years ago. It was with a group from Tsukuba University, and they were doing research on the rice terraces in the Philippines. And this area, Hung Duan, postgraduate students became involved with local people and asked them to go out into their landscape and indicate what was important to them. Now, when we go the Philippines to look at these landscapes, we look at the broader landscape. But the reason I've got this photograph on this building here, corrugated metal building, not particularly outstanding in any way, but it's the local church. And one lady regarded this as the most important place in this landscape because this is where she met her husband to be at a church function, and they got married and lived there thereafter. It's these memories in the landscape that are important. So the cultural landscape concept is intended to increase awareness that heritage places are not isolated islands, and that there is interdependence between people, their social structures and ecosystems, and landscape conservation. Cultural landscapes, therefore, are also repositories of intangible symbolic practices, rituals, traditions, which materialize in songs, customs, festivals, lifestyles, things we make. Here's an example from Vietnam. It was taken, my wife and I a few years ago did a trip on the Red River in Vietnam, and we were taken to one village where the older people were teaching young people a traditional way of dancing and singing to celebrate spring, and it's known as spring singing. It's a genre of Vietnamese folk music performed in spring. Includes acting, ceremony, chanting, dancing, drumming, and singing. The themes involve romance, riddles, work, and so on. And it's lovely to see these older people passing on the tradition of this to younger people. But these things also materialize in products such as you know, local handicrafts. And here you are, your batik down on the left. The one on the top left is taken in a garden in Shanghai some years ago, where people were doing traditional crafts there. Here's Hoi An again, with these beautiful lamps and so on sale. This is traditional weaving at Vigan in the Philippines, another World Heritage city. So these examples are expressions of cultural diversities, as in the case of a Chinese example, the Dong, Miao and Dong songs and dancing. And some of these are listed on the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage Register. The top left-hand corner there, we see in the Miao village of Xizang, the local ladies dancing with men playing these beautiful bamboo pipes. And one of the, I do remember the first time visiting here was 2008, and there was somebody from a UNESCO office there, a UNESCO office in Asia, and she didn't like this dancing. Underneath the dresses, they had their jeans on and modern shoes, but she didn't like it because it was losing its meaning in doing it for visitors. But is it? Well, I don't think so. You know, it's a way of passing on traditions, and maybe they do change a little, but without tourism, that sort of thing, we would lose it. Another one here on the right is entertaining visitors to a traditional Miao feast. There's lots of food and drinking. But the other ones I want to show you, a Dong village in Guizhou in China, and these performances, as you see in the two bottom ones, with the singing and chanting, and the locals there. This is a big day out. You meet your friends, you listen to the singing, and it's perpetuation of intangible heritage. So these performances, they're still part of the daily life of communities, although they've been adapted to modern lifestyle or comply with contemporary tourism expectations, as in the cooking and the traditional feast of in the Miao village. And all these are intangible expressions of culture, and they've all been involved, interestingly, in the developing tourism industry, and in turn getting benefit from it. One of the interesting things is that in Xizang now, this performance area has been made much bigger. It's now like a big outdoor theatre. And some of the younger women now dance there. They wear shorter skirts. And they, in their dancing, they tell their life stories about growing up, about meeting young men and women and so on. And this is part of this perpetuation that we're dealing with living heritage, not dead heritage. So in living cultural landscapes, intangible cultural heritage is inseparably entwined with tangible aspects of heritage. Cultural landscape form, past and present, rural and urban, is profoundly and systematically influenced by political, religious, economic, and social values and forces. And with Yogyakarta in mind, it's interesting to look at how cultural heritage conservation has increasingly embraced the concept and practice of conservation of historic urban areas, with urban conservation entering into urban planning practice and the world of cultural heritage in the 20th century. And allied to this is a significant field of impact in 21st century critical rethinking, is the historic urban landscape paradigm or approach. And Hull, as we call it, the Hull idea essentially espouses a recognition of the layering of significance and values in historic cities and towns, deposited over time by different communities under different contexts. And it's an approach that relates closely to the cultural landscape concept. And cities, towns can be recognized, therefore, as a type of cultural landscape. Nevertheless, it's clear that current urbanization policies often ignore the importance of cultural heritage preservation and promotion, and the great potential activity of creativity in addressing social, environmental, and economic urbanization policies. So we asked the question, how does culture weigh in addressing urbanization challenges today? Well, to return to Hull, urban conservation and meanings of culture, there's been increasing attention on urban heritage, focusing away from buildings to cities as lived in spaces. As Francesco Banderin signaled 2019. Urban heritage has acquired an increasingly important status in all regions of the world, not only as a category, but also as an object of public policies and private investments. Now, what do we mean by culture? And here are three, I think, very clear examples of what we mean. From an Australian, the repertoire of collective habits of thinking and acting that give particular meanings to existence. This relationship between existence, places, and meaning. Think of where batik fits into that, because it clearly does. UNESCO, culture is a set of distinctive spiritual, material, intellectual, and emotional features of society or a social group that encompasses not only art and literature, but lifestyles, ways of living together, value systems, traditions, and beliefs. And then coming something more specifically Asian, the 2000 ASEAN, that's Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Declaration on Cultural Heritage defines culture as the whole complex of distinctive spiritual, intellectual, emotional, and material features that characterize a society or social group. It includes the arts and letters, as well as human modes of life, value systems, creativity, knowledge systems, traditions, and beliefs. Hence, the concept of hull is a major initiative by UNESCO in the field of conservation of urban areas associated with change that's taking place in the world's towns and cities. It was first set out at a UNESCO conference in Vienna in 2005 and advocated in the Vienna Memorandum on World Heritage and Contemporary Architecture, managing the historic urban landscape. It followed concern by the World Heritage Committee about impacts of modern developments on historic urban areas and compatibility with the protection of their heritage values. And this was particularly so with the proposition of Hull, the whole notion as a tool to reinterpret the values of urban heritage, and its indication of the need to identify new approaches and new tools for urban conservation. It hints at a vision of human ecology and signals a change towards sustainable development and a broader concept of urban space suggested as landscape. Not so much the designed and evolved landscapes that are familiar to the most conservation specialists, but rather associative landscapes, landscapes of the imagination. And the culmination of thinking on new international approaches to urban conservation came in 2011 with the UNESCO General Conference recommendation on historic urban landscape. It aligned with the Vienna conference outputs, and it raised an awareness of the conservation of urban heritage should no longer be preoccupied with simply the freezing of a district with special characteristics, but rather understand the way in which urban areas can strengthen identities of communities and become models for the broader process of urban growth. The recommendation recognized the layering of significances and values in historic urban areas deposited over time by different communities under different contexts. And it's an idea that's summarized by the comment in this publication, New Life for Historic Cities, that urban heritage is of vital importance for our cities now and in the future. Tangible and intangible urban heritage are sources of social cohesion, factors of diversity, and drivers of creativity, innovation, and urban generation. The UNESCO General Conference recommendation on historic urban landscape also relates, I'm sorry, I missed this one out, I want to put it in, this report, Culture, Urban Future, where it's a culture-based approach to urban development based on a 3P analytical framework of people, places, and policies. People-centered cities are culture-centered spaces. Quality places are shaped by culture and account for the harmonious integration of the built and natural environment. And integrated policies build on culture as a means of sustainability. And it's interesting again, isn't it, in this, the cover on this landmark report has examples of intangible heritage there, carpet weaving, people dancing. So, and these are just as important as this physical setting in which this performance is taking place. So the idea of layering in urban areas strikes a chord with and relates closely to the cultural landscape concept. And the UNESCO recommendation recognizes that the challenges of urbanization today, as well as the importance of cities as engines of growth and centers of innovation and creativity. That's what they are. And they provide employment for opportunities for employment and education. And here's another example from China, the Beijing 798 art zone. It's an area from the 1930s with Bauhaus-style architecture in it, but it's been turned into an art zone where the festivals, buildings have been turned into studios and various shops selling things, outdoor cafes. They have an art festival there. Some of the buildings have been turned into displays for art and culture, ordinary, everyday art, everyday landscape paintings of the Chinese countryside, or more upmarket expensive jewelry. These are all aspects of the sort of creativity that we find in urban areas. So to finish with, let me say, underpinning our discussion is the notion of heritage. And therefore the question arises, what is heritage? Is there such a thing as heritage? And in this regard, one of my colleagues, Laura Jane Smith, wrote a number of years ago, heritage is a social construct. It's not concerned primarily or predominantly with tangible physical aspects and objects, i.e. things. It's about people and their relationship to places. And what is meant here is that heritage is not a thing, but a multi-layered performance that embodies acts of remembrance and commemoration while constructing a sense of place, belonging and understanding in the present. And lastly, let me point out, stress, the meaning of heritage will vary over time and for different groups of people. It's dynamic, not static. It serves social, cultural, and political functions, but the heritage during this process doesn't remain static and unchanged. We use the heritage in the creation of our own individual, group, and national identities. And in all the times in the past when I've come to places like Indonesia, particularly Yogyakarta, and looked at the batik, seems this reflects this intense relationship that people have with place and meaning and everyday life. Now that's the end of my talk. I do really appreciate you asking me to talk, and I hope you have a successful day and that students enjoy it. As well as getting something out of it. I unfortunately have to leave you now for family reasons, but I do appreciate you asking me and meeting you, and it was lovely to meet up with Professor Sita once again, many years since we saw each other. So good luck with your meeting.
Thank you, Professor Ken Taylor. It's very excellent presentation. Since you have a meeting or with the family, let me give opportunity one or two question and answer. Please, if
yes,
participant have a question, raise your hand and open the mic directly.
Ada dari Ibu Ria dari Unhas.
Ibu
Professor
Ria,
Taylor, I'd like to ask about authenticity of cultural landscape, such as in dancing or creative arts and craft performance for the tourists that not embedded in local everyday life. Or maybe
sorry, My speaker's not working very well. Can you just repeat the end of that? Authenticity.
Or maybe Ria can directly. Ibu Ria?
Yeah.
Ria, please open mic.
Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
My mic.
Can you?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
You can hear me.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I can hear you very well. Thank you,
Okay.
Ibu Dwita and Pak Baikuni for the opportunity. Thank you, Professor Ken Taylor, for your presentation. Very interesting. I would like to ask one question about about authenticity. Yeah, just now you just mentioned it about authenticity. Yeah, sometimes we found such as in your presentation in Philippines, where the dancing performance showed for the tourists, but actually for the sake of tourism only, not embedded in local everyday life. I would like to ask you about the authenticity in case of such as like creative arts or performance or crafts that is performed just for tourists, but not in everyday life of the local people. Thank you, Prof. Taylor.
Yeah, I nearly put this into the talk, and I decided not to, otherwise it would go on too long, but it is an important aspect. Authenticity is has changed, of course. Understanding of authenticity. It used to just mean the physical aspects of heritage. The interesting thing is when the intangible cultural heritage intangible cultural heritage thing was passed by UNESCO in 2003, they didn't use the term authenticity, and a lot of people have said, you know, you can't apply authenticity to intangible cultural heritage. Well, of course you can. Intangible authenticity is to do with changes that take place, but a sense of continuity. And we have to get used to the fact that change takes place. If some of these performances weren't put on by people for tourists and visitors, they might die out. Tourism is not the big bogey that is often made out. And in contact with the Miao people at Xinjiang, for example, they said to a colleague of mine in China, we live in a beautiful place. It's a lovely place to live. We have this, we have this, we have this. What we want is money, you know? And we expect to be able to visit these people in these places and enjoy it, but they also need to have the trappings of modern life. They want to send their children to school. They want to be able to afford to go to the doctor. They want to be able to afford to travel. And they will tell you that if they didn't put on some of these performances for tourists, it would die out. Now, I don't think batik would die out, but with some of these physical performances, it would. Look at the Hud chants in the Philippines from the Philippines rice terraces. They were dying out until some older people got younger people together, as in that Vietnamese example, and they were teaching the young people the traditional Hud chants that go back 2,000 years. And they're performing these in hotels for visitors. Now, underneath that, it had a meaning for the young people. It didn't mean that it was false. It's authentic. It's living on. So authenticity is as one writer wrote a number of years ago, is progressive. We have progressive authenticity. But I do remember many years ago in Canberra having a very heated argument with somebody from Holland who argued vehemently that authenticity doesn't apply to intangible cultural heritage. It certainly does. Okay, I hope that answers. I hope that addresses your question. Whether it answers it's a different matter. But thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Taylor. Yeah, thank you. Progressive authenticity. Yes, I know. I'm not yet. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Time is up for Professor
Yep.
Ken Taylor. Thank you very much for your presentation and discussion today, and safe and happy with your family after that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Okay, next presenter will be Dr. Renata Bornberg, architect from the Institute of History and Art, Building Archaeology and Restoration, Technical University, Wien, Vienna, Austria. She will talk about monitoring Saujana. Now time is yours, Dr. Renata.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Yes, so I will take you somewhere completely different than you were so far, because I will now concentrate on the Saujana, so the landscape, the heritage landscape of Austria, of the Wachau in particular, and I will show you now my presentation. I hope that works. I will try to go. Yes, so here we are. I hope you can see it now.
Yes.
Can you see my presentation? Yes, okay.
Yes, yes.
So it is very much on the intangible heritage of Austria. You will see that, I mean, I'm talking about a complete different country, a complete different landscape, climate, etc., on a complete different way of life. But in the end of the day, you will see that the management behind that intangible heritage is very much also applicable to Indonesia or other places. So you will see on the first place, you will be maybe say, okay, what I should talk about, because this is nothing to do with batik at all. But on the other hand, it has, because the management behind that will tell you quite a few similarities, and therefore I think it's important to talk about that. So I will talk first about the Wachau in general, where it is, what it is. Then I will get you from grapes to wine, which is, I know, in a country of Islam, maybe not the region where you would talk about wine so much, but you will see why wine is such an important issue over here. Then I will talk about what wine has to do with the intangible heritage and with the landscape. And finally, I will talk about how to manage all that. So I will start with introducing where that spot is actually. So you see here a map of Europe. That in the center, in this violet area, this is Austria. And within Austria, you will see that this part is where the Wachau lies. Here I show you a map about the heritage site of the Wachau. You see the red part is the core zone, and there we have the buffer zones, which are very, very small. What you can maybe also see is that here is the Danube River, and it's all with its many, many side arms. Then we have a landscape which is very, very rugged in places, which is going up and down, and on other places it's quite soft, and we have nice valleys. So the landscape itself is already quite diverse. Then it was always, since in ancient times, this was always the thoroughfare for all the ships that were coming from the west going to east and vice versa. So this part was always very, very important for invasions, but also for generating taxes, because everyone had, for example, where the Danube was very, very dense, people could just ask every ship that was coming to these areas to land and to pay taxes if they wanted to proceed. And that made the region in the first place very, very rich. For example, there is this city of Stein, which you will see later on, which was never ever having any landscape. They were just being very, very rich because the salt transport was here, and every salt had to be taxed over here, and so they didn't have to work, but only lived on the taxes they could get or gain from the salt. Then we have a few monasteries around, and you will see that monasteries also have an issue over here, because monasteries are not only places where you have popes or monks living there. This was always a kind of a production site. And I will show you what that had to do also with the landscape. And finally, we also have the many, many vineyards going around here, as well as the apricot plants that we will see as well. But I will concentrate basically on the wine production and how much it was stamping the landscape and is very, very important to understand the whole region. So this is now a picture from the Danube River into somewhere of this of the region. That's the river. You see, it's not very deep in the surrounding areas. It's only deep, so you can go with ships in the middle, but on the sides it's already very shallow. You also see the landscape where you have hills. And here you see already the first terraces of wine. And then there are also some, you can see that over here, but somewhere here, for example, you see the apricot trees as well. This is one of the side arms of the river. So you can also imagine that it's not only one huge river, but it has many, many side arms, which are more shallow and where there are also, well, no ships anymore, but it's yeah, more for relaxing these days. Then we have cities like Stein. I was already talking about that there were never, these are medieval buildings that you can see here, and most of the buildings in this region, in this city, are at least have a core of medieval times and were just updated later on, like this one, which is then in the 16th century, they rebuilt that house. So what I was saying is, you see these houses that have no agricultural production anymore. They are just residential buildings where the people were just living from the salt and nothing else. So they could live a complete different life than in other regions of the Wachau. Here's another picture of the same city, where you see again residential buildings, where you had also they were rented out mostly, and sometimes these days there are some shops in the ground floor area, but in medieval times there were no shops at all. Then we have the monasteries, and monasteries in this country, or also all over Europe, are not only places where you find monks who were there concentrating on religious themes, but there were also centers of production, because they were having quite huge landscapes. This was their property then, and they were also generating quite a lot of products around here. Then it was always a place for hospitals, because all the medical service was done within such a monasteries, and they did help, of course, the people that were in the surrounding villages. And it was always a center for education, because they had always the libraries, they were copying books from the very, very beginning. And so it was always a center of education and knowledge as well. Since lots of property was belonging to one of these monasteries, they were also able to produce quite a lot, and also gain ideas how to better produce things, which also then influenced the people around. Another such monastery, which is Melk, which is quite important, which is the the easternmost tip of the Wachau these days. Another monastery, a smaller one, which is Axbach. And then, of course, that's where I wanted to go. That is now the vineyards and the terraces of the vineyards of the Wachau. The Wachau has a very, very mild climate. I mean, it's not comparable to what you have in Indonesia, because there's still lots of snow in the winter time, and it's quite humid and hot. It's not as hot as in Yogyakarta, for example, but it is for European ideas. It is quite warm in summer times. For wine, it is quite important to have lots of sun. And therefore, these terraces were quite important to be built, because if you have these terraces, then the wine can get lots of sun. Secondly, since the hills are quite steep in places, they would just be washed down, and therefore these terraces were built already in medieval times. And finally, we have the grapes, and that's all about what I'm trying to concentrate in my talk today, because this wine production is something that is very, very essential to the people living there, because not much is growing there. You could not have any wheat or rice, or you couldn't have any other fruits or vegetables. It's actually a place where you really have a very, very limited idea, or a limited number of crops that you can cultivate. You cannot even have lots of farming with cows and with cattle and with sheep or so, because this is not the landscape for that. So actually, you really have the chance to have either these wine, the grapes, or you have apricots trees. But apart of that, not much is working there. So I start with winter time. You see lots of snow, quite chilly, quite cold. And what you also have to see, nothing at all to eat. In winter time, there is from October on, you don't have any crops, anything at all to eat. You have to have something where you can live on, which has been stored in other times. Then we have spring. It's a very nice picture, and everything is in blossom, what you can see here, but still nothing to eat. Still to live on those things that you have conserved and preserved in other times for that long time. And finally, we have autumn. And in autumn, everything is there in one time. That means grapes come down in tons within 2 or 3 weeks. So that means you have a whole year of nothing to eat at all. And then within a very, very short time, you have so much that you cannot at least eat all that in one go. And actually, you don't have anything else for the rest of the year. So my family, we have a little apricot tree. I mean, we have a little garden, and there are 5 apricot trees. And just to give you an idea, within 2 weeks, we have 400 kilos of apricots. So we are now 6 people there. You cannot eat 500 or 400 kilos of apricots within 2 weeks. You cannot do that. So that means you need to do something with all that fruit to conserve it and preserve it, particularly for the time where you have nothing to eat. And that is in Central Europe between October and, let's say, March, April. It's quite a long time. And therefore, you need to do something with that fruit that comes in masses, and then you don't have anything at all. So people until today are collecting the grapes. You see, it's already a little bit more chilly. She has already a jumper on. Sometimes the grapes are collected when the first frost was already, so it was already below 0 degrees Celsius. And what you can also see, it's quite heavy work until today, because these vineyards, you cannot go through with a tractor or any other machines. You have to do it by hand, and it's quite labor intensive. And that means that people are less and less willing to do so. And this is one of the problems because it shaped so much the landscape, and nowadays people are not really willing to do these very, very intense jobs anymore. So then the grapes come into these big barrels, what you can see here. It comes in through that sluice, and then you see this huge, huge barrel over here. And then the next step is you put bars on top, and then this huge beam over there is pressed down and squeezes out all the juice, the grape juice. And this grape juice is then coming into this huge, huge basin. And from that basin, there is a small funnel, and from there it goes into the big, big barrels in the basements. When I was a child, I was always messing around here because this grape juice is very, 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 very good and yummy. And since I always had a sweet tooth, I was always sitting there and just collecting the fresh grape juice, which has no alcohol at all in the first place, but which is just grape juice, and it's very, very nice to drink that. So here you see again one of these presses where you see again there would be the grapes in, and then all these bars are on top, and then you have this beam, and here you see how the people in previous years were just turning this wheel down, 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 so that all the weight goes into that barrel and squeezes out all the juice over here. Today, we have electricity and machines who are doing that. And finally, we have the basements, the cellars, where in these huge barrels, the fresh juice is put in. And this juice then is slowly, but the whole time then just turning into wine. This wine is just produced by all the bacteria which are in the grapes, and they transform this juice into alcohol and wine. What you see here are all these candles. They are lit, and this is very important. This is not to make it attractive or nice, but whenever you enter a cellar of wine, you need to take a candle with you, because the bacteria use up all the oxygen which is in one of these basements in the cellars. And that means there is no oxygen in the end of the day. So if the wine is on the major fermentation process, there is hardly any oxygen in it anymore there. And the indicator is if the candles are still lit. So as long as the candles are lit, you can go down there. If not, you should straight go up again and wait until this process of fermentation of the wine is over. So now we come how this wine also produces a certain village structure, because you see all these farm stands are not very big. Normally we have farm stands in Europe which have large sheds for the cows and for the sheep or for other animals. We have huge sheds for storing hay for the winter time and so forth. These farm stands are quite small because the vineyards or the vine is in these cellars down there, and you need just an entry door for these cellars, which is very, very low underneath the ground, which is important to generate nice wine. It should not be too dark. It must be very cool places, so the cellar is the best place. And around that you can live. I mean, this is not very much place you need for the wine. In some cases, we have even only the cellars, because here the landscape is like that. You can build the cellar into these mountains, and that means that you have already a very cool place. And then you just need that door, or maybe this door, and maybe you have one or two rooms attached, but they are more or less there for if you are there and you have to deal with the wine, that you can sit somewhere. But the rest is just closed and you live somewhere else. And then we have, of course, nowadays also that we have some festivals, when we call that Heuriger. That means in certain weeks a year, the local people who produce the wine are also allowed to sell their wine. This is only a few weeks a year, and they are not like normal restaurants. They are just opening up for, again, a few days in a year, and then they only sell their wine, the new fresh products, the wine. They are normally, or in the normal sense of the idea, or the idea was that you even bring your food with you. They don't normally, or they don't all sell food, they only sell their wine, and you can sit there and bring your own things with you. This is something that you are not allowed in any other place in Austria. In all restaurants, you would not be allowed to bring in your own things. So this is very extraordinary. But now we come to the problems. I hope I have shown you a little bit about the landscape, about the villages, about the production, and what it means between producing and the landscape, and the way of producing, the landscape and the villages. The problems today are that this traditional wine production, so the way how to pick the fruit, is very, very labor intensive. And that means you cannot use machines. That means that people are trying these days to rip down these terraces. Because of these terraces, you cannot use the machines. And this makes a big problem for the landscape, which has such a very distinct character and is there since medieval times. Then wine production generally is very dependent on the global market prices. So in times we can generate quite nice prices for a bottle of wine. In other years or in other decades, you hardly can get the reward for your work. Then we have a very big problem with the settlement pressure that comes from, particularly from Vienna, because it's not very far away from Vienna. And so many people, particularly we have seen now due to Corona, that many people try to leave the cities like Vienna and move into the countryside, because all are sitting on their computers and have Zoom meetings. And from that point of view, they are more and more going into the countryside, and the settlement pressure on one hand, and the loss of production on the other hand is a very, very bad problem at the moment. But with all that, we also forget about traditional crafts, which applies also to the craft of how to make wine in these old traditional techniques. There are other crafts that are also being forgotten, but I will come to that later on. So what can we do? Vienna, or the whole Wachau, is now a UNESCO World Heritage since 2000. And of course, they were aware of what's happening if there are no actions to be taken. So one of these principles, what you can do to preserve, not only to be a UNESCO site, UNESCO means very much to the people, of course, but as long as people do not appreciate and do not know the benefits of keeping the old traditional things alive, nothing will happen. So just being UNESCO is not really enough if you do not take certain measures. And one of them is, of course, involving civil society. Then, of course, keeping the traditional productions and the processes alive. And since this always has to do with money, because you cannot say, okay, I want to do this and that, and I want to have traditional, I don't know, workshops, you need always some kind of money to also invest it into these traditional things. And certainly a very, very important aspect is always monitoring which kind of measures have gone somewhere and what the benefits of that were and so forth. So we could have some activities and initiatives. For example, there are various local associations these days, which is, for example, the Wachau Marillenverein, which is an association of the apricots. Then we have a cultural association. We have women associations because women were very much always involved in the production of weavery, of indoors production, and this also needs to be protected and also put forward. We have also initiatives of managing and maintaining the cultural landscapes and of arts, cultures and crafts. And this means these initiatives are already in place, and that means that these initiatives must be somehow strengthened. And we need, for example, as a member of the government, we need to get also money to these initiatives, that they can be alive and that they can be more visible also in the cultural landscape. So fields of actions would be then in the Wachau, the nature and landscape, the townscapes, agriculture and forestry, tourism, which Ken was already discussing about the importance of tourism, and I only can agree to that, because tourism is not only a burden for cities, it is also a benefit for such a landscape, because often enough, if we talk about traditional production, people would always feel that they are the backwardedly and the very, very last people in development. And if we bring tourists to the places and say, okay, look at what we are doing, and someone else is interested in that, this will also generate civic pride for the people who are in this countryside, and will tell them, oh wow, what I'm doing is not backwardedly, but this is something some other peoples are very much interested. And that applies for agriculture as much as for arts and crafts. So generating civic pride for what they are doing and the landscape and what they have done so far, and that is in place for more than 1,000 years by now, that must be put into the society, and they need to learn how important that is, and with that generating civic pride. And of course, the whole thing must be somehow administered. I will now talk only on 3 aspects: on the landscape and nature, on the agriculture, and arts and crafts. So what can you do on landscape? First of all, the aim would be to preserve this landscape and the nature by fostering the cultivation of the vineyards. Because only if we foster this and somehow help them to cultivate these vineyards in the future, will help to preserve that landscape. We also have to mediating the values of the heritage to locals as well as to the tourists. This very much replies to what I said before. If we tell them how important these values are of this landscape, then we will be able to preserve it in the future as well. And of course, we have to strengthen the diversity of this natural habitat, because nowadays we see that with machines, and they're often involved now in the region, we have a loss of the diversity, and this must be somehow prohibited. And how can we do that? We can do that by information initiatives. We can strengthen the local associations, but we also have to do something like seminars, maybe in some kind of pubs. Maybe it's not something like a university seminar, but maybe we can go there in a pub and say, okay, this is now, we want to inform you about what this natural habitat here is all about, and what you can do, and what you have actually done in the future, in the past. And always generate financial help from somewhere, from the state, from private investors, whatever. But this is financial help is always important, because without financial help, you cannot really get anywhere. And that is unfortunately the baseline of all the things that we're trying to do. Also from e-commerce side, we always see that, I mean, private initiatives are always very nice, and people are very, very much involved in that, and they really, really do whatever they can. But in the end of the day, everyone has to earn his or her living, and therefore some kind of financial help is always necessary. Now I come to agriculture and forestry. Again, we have to maintain and protect the diversity of this small-scale landscape and its flora and fauna. You have seen that we have steep hills, we have the flats, and then we have the swamplands of the Danube. And this is a very, very huge diversity. We have not only this one big stream, which is the Danube River. We also have the sides. The sides arms, and there are swamplands and so forth. And we have to use this cultural landscape to protect the whole thing. And what can we do? Again, cooperations with other regions where there are vineyards. Then we can advise and educate by farmers and for farmers. This is very important, that we are, as the scholars, not going there and telling them how can we do that, but it is much more that the people in place tell the people who are also there how to do it, and this is a very good idea. And of course, advertisement of Wachau products on a super regional level. In arts and crafts, I see that I should stop already, so I go through this very, very shortly. Yes, of course, we need to pass the knowledge and the skills of traditional crafts on to the next generation. And yes, so now it's not about wine, but I want to show you these very nice caps and hats that is only worn, or this is a tradition in the Wachau region, and these caps are made by the women. Nowadays, again, it was already a forgotten craft how to do that, because the women sit there for, I think, 1 week or so. If you work 8 hours a day, then you would be able to do this in 2 or 3 weeks. It's quite a lot of work, because you have to, this is all embroidery. And nowadays we have associations, and you see now the women of one of those associations, and they wear their self-made, or again, they have learned the tradition of making this kind of dress, which is local there as well, and also their hats, the Wachau Haube. And they also make some festivals these days and show, again, this is another kind of dress that is traditional in this region. And again, they try to show their crafts and how to make it in the public again. And this is also something of the initiatives that are launched recently. And this is a last picture of the Wachau to give you an idea of how diverse this landscape is and how much, and I wanted to show again the idea of that this particular way of living, agriculture and landscape and cities is one unity, and you cannot divide it and you cannot tear it apart. It should be one thing. And with this, I want to say thank you for listening, and I hope for a fruitful discussion now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Renata Bornberg. Very excellent presentation, showing some picture of the Austria, and especially linking the wine landscape of Alpen, maybe part of the Alpen, yeah. And the production, processing industry in the small town, and also how the tradition relate to the ecosystem, which those people and nature link together in what is that, generation and to generation. And it is quite interesting to learn from the Austria. Now we move to French. Dr. Helene NJOTO. She is art and architectural historian, École Française of Extreme Orient, Paris, France. she will talk about the sustainable arts. And Dr. Helene, time is yours.
Thank you very much.
Please,
Thank you
everybody
very
can
much.
take the write the question. We will collect, and at the end, after all the presenting the paper, we will open for discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Time is yours. Yes.
Is it in apa namanya, full screen or not?
Not yet. Please take full screen, yeah.
How do I do this?
Yeah. Okay, click.
Sorry. Is it
Yes,
now?
click it. You can click it and full screen then.
I actually did. It's not full screen yet?
Not yet.
Previously full screen, but then back to not full.
It is full screen on my screen, so I don't know what else to do now.
Or maybe you can try to
take out and then
take out. Yes. Yeah.
Stop share maksudnya.
No. Yeah. Okay. You can share again.
Okay. I'll do it again. Sorry about this. Share.
Yes.
What about now?
It's still going.
Sekarang sudah?
Not yet.
Oh, that's strange. It is full.
It's far away from France to Indonesia. To wait for a moment. Eh?
It is a long way.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me know when it is full screen, yeah?
Okay.
So you can introduce.
Yeah, I will start, and then please let me know when it's full screen already. So just interrupt me when it is, so that I'm more relaxed, okay, about it. Thank you very much to everyone, and I would really like to thank my dear teacher Bu Sita and Jogja Heritage Society, especially, who opened doors to the fascinating world of cultural heritage issues to me quite a long time ago now. As Ken Taylor was saying, he was there in 2003. I was there too, and I was very happy to be invited by Bu Sita and JHS team. Bu Sita and I had long conversations about Taman Sari, as my dissertation addressed architectural innovations from the 16th to early 19th century in Java. And these conversations continued while I wrote an article in collaboration with Mr. Ajidame about the history of Indonesian heritage for this edited book called Contemporary Indonesia, edited by Rémi Madinier. And almost at the same time, I wrote a long article for a French journal for which I now work, the Bulletin de l'École Française d'Extrême-Orient, where I try to trace the antiquity of Javanese mosques to at least 9th century, earlier than it had been previously acknowledged. So what I tried to do there, and this is the reference, was to verify and compare Dutch scholars' hypothesis. So this is quite a few years ago. This is old research. And I'm now conducting a research project on Islamic art and architecture in collaboration with the Puslit Arkanas, the Center for Archaeology in Indonesia, as the representative of IFEO in Jakarta. I'm in Paris, but I'll hopefully soon be in Jakarta. So Bu Sita invited me to share thoughts, berbincang-bincang, right? To have a conversation about these organic crafts and heritage. So I thought I would bring up a topic that I think is seldom addressed about organic crafts, which is wooden mosque architecture and the characteristics of these mosques and their potential as intangible or living cultural heritage, the human heritage side of it, Saujana heritage, etc. So I see that Prof. Revi is not here anymore, but I saw that there are many other experts of this topic. I do not consider myself an expert on this topic, and especially not of heritage. So I'll be very, excited to have an open discussion about just a few ideas that I'm going to throw within the next 25 minutes. So as I said, mosques are often considered as material heritage. However, the human knowledge and the landscapes around it that these mosques depend on maybe needs to be better sustained and appreciated. The point I would like to make here is that considering these mosques are disappearing in a quite alarming way, it may be useful to tackle the problem from other angles, right? And maybe have a more holistic understanding of mosque, not just as tangible heritage, but also as intangible and maybe Saujana heritage, comprising the knowledge of customary communities, the landscape that they sustain, their sacred lands, plots of lands where materials to build these mosques are grown. So let's have a look now. I cannot do anything. Is this, did you, well, by the way, are you seeing my PowerPoint now or not?
Yes, it's clear.
And it's in full screen?
Full screen.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. So let's have a look at what we're talking about here. I will only be talking about vernacular wooden mosque of Indonesia, and which main features you can see on the screen are, especially in this axonometry that I like from Jacques de Marsay, 4 central pillars that you can see here that support the highest roof, and then another gallery of pillars supporting the second roof, and then another gallery of posts supporting the lowest roof. And so you have the superimposed roof that everyone knows in Indonesia. Unfortunately, it is disappearing quite fast. So we're talking about an entirely organic material structure in wood with, either nailless joinery or ligature, especially in Eastern Indonesia. We have sirap wooden tiles or thatch roof in other places. I like this picture of Masjid Agung Jogja because it still has these sirap that you can see, and this water channel where kids would play. The water channel, which is very probably, as shown by Dr. Claude Guillot, an Indic feature, a feature that was kept from the Hindu-Buddhist period. So you see that we're here with an entirely organic craft, which is really a synthesis of several layers of history. I like this map by Denis Lombard, which shows this overlapping, this double paradigm that happened in the region. You have Indianization here in the dotted area, the dotted line within the dotted line. Sorry, in yellow. Indianization that started actually in the first millennium, but actually now we know that it's much earlier. And then you have Islamization that started in the roughly 13th century, early 15th century in Java, and late 14th century in South Philippines. And you see that you'll see that the mosque that I'm talking about emerged in this overlapping zone and all the way to the east with slight variations in techniques and materials, but always you have this common denominator, which is the four posts supporting the highest roof. So this synthesis between Indic, Islamic, but also very importantly, Oceanic, whatever you want to call it, Oceanian, Austronesian knowledge is also, this can be seen, for example, in the Sumba island in eastern Indonesia, where, sorry, where you see the same structure. So you have these 4 posts supporting these the highest roof, and another row of posts all around supporting the lowest roof. However, as I said, this mosque riddle, this Oceanian, Austronesian element is still a riddle. It has not completely been solved, and I'm very eager to see the next generation of architecture historians do something about this. We still don't know so much. I know that Hadi, Imran also this. So this needs further research. But these examples from Sumba clearly show that we're also dealing with a very local knowledge when we talk about mosque, traditional mosque. So a type. So this is definitely a type that is also found in Bali until today, as can be seen here in the Wantilan type. We have the same structures. So this is the among the biggest buildings in Bali. They're cockfighting rings, but also they serve many purposes. And you see that they're very, very similar structures with these 4 posts in the center supporting the highest roof. So this South Asian or Indic element that I told you about in the beginning, about the platform. So the structure is supported on top of platforms that still exist in some parts of Indonesia, where this Indic influence spread. It is very clear also when you look at platforms from the first millennium AD in West and Central Java, for example, here in Batu Jaya, you see these red dots are actually positions of the initial posts that, of course, have completely disappeared. This was entirely covered with mud and earth. This is Pusle Tarkanas and Efeo collaboration. You see that it shows the same pattern. Ratu Boko, that a lot of you are very familiar with, shows also this very similar pattern. And finally, Candi Plaosan, that so we don't have 4 posts here, but many more. But you have another, series of posts all around to show that we are dealing with the same type of buildings, and that this type was in Java, spread in Java in a very, very early period. In fact, more in a Buddhist type of buildings, Buddhist architecture, as can be seen in these 3 examples. So we know that brick and stone elevated platforms was borrowed or inspired by from South Asia. We have 2 main evidences for this. The first is the fact that elevated platforms are found in India, in Kerala and Sri Lanka, but also Tamil Nadu, as you can see to the right of the PowerPoint. But you can find these types of platforms all the way up to Nepal, as shown by someone like Pierre Pichard. And the other evidence is that in Southeast Asia, the platform that you can see here, many examples, the platform is spread where Indic culture settled. So mainly the Javanese world, including Bali, parts of Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula. So just to show that this type of superimposed or stacked roof does not only exist in Java, but also the rest of Southeast Asia where Islam spread. I showed this in the earlier map. So from west to the east, like here in the northern tip of Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula in Kelantan. Well, this is interesting because in Kampung Laut, Kelantan, Malaysia, you see that it is directly on poles, directly on the ground, and not on a platform like it is more usually in the Indic-influenced part of the archipelago. So other examples of this type, how do I do this? Voila. The other examples are, very famous also in Java, the Masjid Demak, but also Banyumas. And so there are, common features also to the further eastern part of the archipelago towards the east. So you have Lombok. I'll go back to Lombok. We have Sulawesi and then Ambon here. So this type is also found all the way to South Philippines, where they were found in two types, what they called over there the rectangular type langgar or rangar, which is not this one, and the square type like these two examples called masjid or masjid in the Philippines. So now I hope I made it clear that we're really dealing with a very unique architectural heritage here, a unique product, a unique creation of this Indic, Islamic, and Oceanian paradigm, which gathers these singular artistic expressions of several areas of the region in one single shape, with these superimposed roofs and these sakaguru, the four pillars in the center. However, as I said in the beginning of this talk, this heritage is very fast disappearing. As I showed in South Philippines, these mosques in black and white pictures. Why in black and white? Because they're almost gone. They're almost gone from South Philippines. They're gone from Cambodia. Brunei doesn't have them anymore. Malaysia has probably just a handful of them. Singapore, they're all gone, as showed by my friend Imran. And in most places these mosques are gone and replaced by concrete walls and very often cupolas of an uncertain style, a sort of international style with a cupola. So considering these mosques are almost gone from the most places in Southeast Asia, but they still exist in Indonesia, in quite a good number actually. Indonesia could probably play a role as a very unique conservatory of Southeast Asian mosque in the world, a conservatory of so a place where the Southeast Asian mosque, this unique type of mosque in the world, could be preserved. However, the method maybe should be or could be thought again. I'm just asking a question to you all. You are all specialists of heritage. I'm just a historian, heritage specialist. What should be prioritized? Should materials be prioritized, or the caretakers of this mosque, or of course all of it together? What about the knowledge holders of these mosques? Do we, are they enough taken care of? We know that due to their perishable nature, thatched roof, especially wooden beams and even limestone foundations have to be renewed regularly, right? Every now and then, every few years. So like the Nara temple, the Ise temple in Nara that we all know, it's not about conserving the materials, but about allowing the regular replacement of these materials and the growing of these materials in a sustainable way, right? So the problem is this regular replacement of organic craft can be done by the conservation or protection of the knowledge or collective memory of this carpentry, joinery, binding, roof thatching activities. So not so long ago, those who are familiar with Maluku, this is Masjid Uli Hatuhaha from apparently the 17th century. Not so long ago, actually last April 2020, this mosque burned down due to apparently a brazier. It caught fire because of a brazier for offering, yeah. But instead of replacing the thatch roof and wooden panels by a zinc roof, they rebuilt it with organic materials, and it's back to normal. It's back to its original shape, and this could happen because they have a customary law for this, a very strong system that is reproduced from generation to another. And they have this annual ritual called Masiri Rumah Sigit, where the whole village, right, contributes to the renewal of thatch roof and other parts. However, this system is disappearing, as seen here in South Sulawesi, where actually it is easier to use zinc roofs instead of thatch or wooden tiles. Yeah, so Uli Hatuhaha is one of the rare examples in Indonesia where the reconstruction of sacred wooden buildings is a very, very serious matter decided by an authority, the king and his negeri. In this case, the Pelau, Kabau, Rohomoni, the Kailo, and the Hulaliu, all belonging to that one kingdom. So Haruku Island is known to be a very strict observer of these customary law. My question is, what could we learn from them to sustain other mosques in organic craft in the archipelago? So I mentioned Nara's Ise Temple, but in fact, closer to us is another relevant example where religious wooden sanctuary authority decided not to apply for the UNESCO World Heritage inscription for the and this is Bazaki. They decided to not apply for the UNESCO World Heritage inscription for the specific reason that the conservation and restoration rules did not give enough leeway, enough space to their restoration method. So I'm going to talk now about Bazaki a little bit. I'm sure a few of you in this room are specialists of, so it will be a very interesting discussion, I'm sure, towards the end. So despite the presence of international tourism since the 1930s in Bali, Bali is the region where Hindu-Javanese customs are still the most practiced and where sites were best preserved by its people without state intervention. So the case of the monumental religious complex of Bazaki that you can see here in a feast day and on a regular day is very interesting. It's actually an emblematic case of this phenomenon of refusing this idea of full material heritage notion. So what happened is that in 2000, and a lot of you, I'm sure, are familiar with this story. In 2000, a group of heritage experts offered to help the Balinese authorities from Bazaki to apply for the inscription of Bazaki on the World Heritage List. However, what happened is that the project was abandoned in the face of opposition from customary communities. And we know that in Bali, these customary communities are very well organized. So what this community, this customary community was fearing was the dispossession. They feared to be dispossessed of the Bozaki temple because the operational tools, the method proposed by these foreign heritage experts did not take into consideration, into account, the intangible dimension of the temple, which was considered which is still considered by the Balinese as a living site, right? Not as a dead monument, but definitely as a living site. So the Balinese customary communities wanted to maintain the right to renew construction materials due to their perishable nature. They wanted to move constructions according to local cosmology notions, and above all, sorry, they wanted to practice the Balinese worships according to their own rules, not to, foreign heritage experts dictating how to use their heritage. So all this would have been compromised. All the rituals, the renewal of materials, etc., would have been compromised by this international heritage mechanisms that were offered to them. So what happened? They simply rejected the inscription offer. How long do I still have?
This time is limited. Now it's
Oh, okay. Then I'll just conclude. So what is interesting here is that the knowledge to build and restore a wooden construction is not naturally acknowledged when talking about architecture. This traditional knowledge has been acknowledged and inscribed for this, rice field system, the subak in Bali, for batik, for wayang and other organic crafts. Interestingly enough, it's not systematically acknowledged for wooden architecture, and especially not mosque architecture. So I'd like to open a discussion about the reasons for this. Why are we still hesitating to preserve the knowledge that traditionally helped preserve heritage over centuries, which is probably the most representative of Nusantara's identity, these mosques I'm talking about, as I showed at the junction between the Indic, Islamic, but also Oceanic paradigm. So I'd like to stop there and maybe open the discussion. What has been done? And this is a genuine question. I haven't been looking at heritage for a while, and I'm not a specialist of heritage. And I'm really asking you, I'm asking the floor, what has been done to preserve this knowledge, this traditional mosque building, rebuilding, restoring knowledge. I'm sure several grassroots initiatives have emerged in the past years, and I'd love to know more about this. Another question is what should be done, how, by whom and for whom, as Prof. Ken Taylor was asking. Should we help customary villages to keep their ancestral knowledge in wooden building restoration and construction? What if they prefer to change the materials to zinc? Roxana Watterson reports in her book that in the early 20th century, zinc roofs had become a very popular phenomena among Minangkabau, although they are in fact less adapted to climate and they actually rust very quickly. So should any authority, including NGOs, including grassroots group communities, force them to use thatch roof when they prefer, zinc roofs? Who should decide about the future of mosque if not their users? So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Helene. I've been talking about the history, especially art and architecture, and the concept of many mosques in the archipelago concept, and it is quite interesting, yeah, to compare the climate, also the light of the inside from the top of the roof, and also we try to, I think, have to promote such kind of architecture for mosques is suitable in the tropical region. Thank you very much for very comprehensive and comparative ideas, and with a nice picture, historical picture, and the question as well for the future. Now we move to the panelist number 4, Dr. Siti Nurul Rofikoh. She is the landscape architecture from the Faculty of Agriculture, Universitas Gadjah Mada. She will talk about the agriculture in Saujana, Jogja, relating the agriculture and the craft, and as well as the economy of the people. Please, time is yours, Dr. Vivi.
Okay, thank you. Test sound dulu. Is it okay?
It's okay.
Ini belum bisa ini ya, share screen-nya. Cannot.
You can share.
Yes, so this is host disable participant share screen. Maybe Mbak Yani bisa bantu cek. How to check.
Now as you become host now.
Yes.
You can do yourself.
Okay, thank you. Is it okay, Pak Baik?
Yeah.
The PowerPoint. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, good afternoon or good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I would like to share the presentation about agriculture in Jogja Saujana heritage. In this topic, there are 5 topics regarding to culture in Jogja Saujana heritage or Jogja cultural landscape heritage. I will present first Saujana and agriculture in a new trend, and then Surjan agriculture as a traditional agriculture for rice field. And then the third, Javanese pekarangan or Indonesian home garden. And also I will present Jogja philosophy plants. Then finally about agriculture and batik, also for SDGs address. As cultural landscape or Saujana of Yogyakarta, we have known well Borobudur and Prambanan temples. So these two famous temples in Indonesia and also in the world. So in Yogyakarta, agricultural areas are influenced by local wisdom, stretched from the west to the east, even in rural and urban areas. So we can see the pictures now. This is a new trend in agricultural areas surrounding Borobudur and Prambanan. Agrotourism in rice field and other agricultural nature is a new trend in Saujana heritage. For example, in the rice area, this is Warna Bumi near to Borobudur. It's about less than 1 kilo from Borobudur in the south of Borobudur. This is, we can enjoy the paddy field view, fresh air, and the green bed on the path walk built on the rice field. So it becomes as a beautiful background for the activities, and we can take a picture as a paddy field or rice field as a view or background. And then these areas, Warna Bumi is there is a restaurant, and then photo spot for the recreation, and then close to Prambanan Temple also, there is a rice field and or agriculture activities. So visitors or tourists can enjoy walking on the rice bed on the paddy field here. So this is, I think, is very unique for the agricultural tourism in the Saujana, especially in Yogyakarta. So we believe enjoying the agri-tourism can contribute to human health. So let's do it more and more during the pandemic, right? And then this close to Swarnabhumi rest area, there is Pelataran Hotel, also in Borobudur area. So this is there is other hotel or homestay around the Borobudur, right? We can do our hobbies like sport and like swimming, reading, book, and then just take a cup of coffee while enjoying view of agriculture nature. So this is very beautiful picture, I think, yeah, and we can enjoy the area. So maybe you want to come visit this area maybe after pandemic, right? Other place in Saujana, also at the north of Yogyakarta, at Sambi Resort, Kaliurang Resort of Sleman District, near to the Mount Merapi. We also in Sambi, this is the hotel, and near the hotel, the farmer or community rice field, not hotels rice field, right? And then the Sambi Hotel takes view of community's paddy field like this. So the visitors can do bicycling around the paddy field, doing yoga or other sport, and also see and ride the traditional cart pulled by cow. It's called pedati or cikar, yeah, in Yogyakarta traditional cart. And also usually the pedati is used for bringing paddy or people to the market and or other agriculture products or agricultural harvest to the owner, and can traditional farmer also use this as usual activity in agriculture. So as visitors also we can do harvesting dragon fruits like that, and in the other harvest in the near plantation of the Sambi Resort surroundings. So just we continue to the Surjan agriculture. Yes, it's about Surjan agriculture. Kulon Progo, this is in the west of province of Yogyakarta. Kulon Progo district means Kulon is west. Progo is Progo River. So Kulon Progo is area at the west of Progo River. There's Pak Manu in the lecture of Pak Manu also explained about the Progo River in the ancient time, right? And then recently, Kulon Progo become developing area because a new international of Yogyakarta has built there in Kulon Progo. A reference of Surjan agriculture published this month, published by Culture and Tourist Office of Kulon Progo 2019. And in the reference states that in the past, Kulon Progo was a swamp area, but now this area is still a lowest land in Yogyakarta. So poor drainage is also problems in agriculture. And then Surjan agriculture has been the rice field or paddy fields with alternating bed system since the early 20th centuries, about 1930 and 1920, sorry. In the last 19th century, so about 1893, the kingdom at that moment, Paku Alam V tried to dry the swamp area, but farmers could not utilize, because farmers cannot utilize the area for agriculture because of the wet area. And then too much water for paddy because water is soaking the paddy itself. And horticulture like vegetable, fruit cannot grow in the wet area. So it was very hard to dry the area because of the large area. So in the early 20th century, the farmers tried to raise a part of ground of paddy field like this. Yes. So there were rice belt, or we say guludan in Japanese, as a dry land because it's upper than others. And then for horticulture, such as vegetable, fruit trees, and the sunken bed, or ledokan. Yes, the ledokan, this was at still wet area for planting paddy. This is also economical reasons in land utilization, and people need is not only rice, but also vegetable and fruit. So the rice field create pattern of line like this from the top, pattern like a pattern of surgeon clothes. Yes, surgeon. This is the surgeon clothes is Jogja main clothes of surgeon. This is with the lurid design, but surgeon is not line patterns, but also flowers, and there is no picture, only the color. So surgeon also has meaning of simple, humble, and hoping goodness of God. And then men wear surgeon with blankon, the Japanese, this one, blankon, Japanese cap, and also batik long skirt for men. Yes, this is the traditional cloth, especially for Japanese men. So we can see this is various of plantation in the surgeon area, like onion or leek with paddy, and then papaya in the upper land with the paddy in the sunbed, and then also spinach, vegetable, and paddy, and then other horticultures or like fruits. And then I think this is only for small trees of fruits, not so big, because the upper space is also a limited space. It's about 1 to 5 meters. Yes. Okay. So we continue other agriculture in Saujana is Japanese pekarangan. In Indonesia, there is an expert of environment, Professor Otto Sumarwoto. In his research that the Japanese pekarangan covered a high density of vegetation per unit area, and the tree canopy structures, this one, from the below until the yes, until the high trees. So the tree canopy structures that imitates the tropical rainforests. Yeah, in the rural area, forest or nature surrounding the home creates agroforestry system like this, or also in pekarangan. And then this is very common as an agroecosystem in the rural area. So many researches in pekarangan, even in urban area, is conducted by team in for the develop a model of productive landscape even in urban and rural area. So in this picture we can see other pattern of pekarangan. Maybe this is in West Java. There is a fish pond inside, and then also vegetable and spices. And then the pekarangan is land in surrounding home, and then also variables and fruit trees, and in the small tree until the big trees. So we can see this is a common pattern of pekarangan in Indonesia, especially in Java. So the profile of tropical pekarangan shows combination trees and shrubs. This is, we can see in the first stratum, first the canopy layer like a papaya, banana, coffee, salak, maybe it's about 10 meters in the first layer, the first structure, and then avocado, breadfruit, and other trees or shading trees. And then the colored tree is coconut tree, and albizia is a very big trees. So this is the picture show the agroforestry system for the pekarangan. Especially this is influenced by the local wisdom of Java. Yes, during the pandemic, most people spend work and study from the home. So pekarangan is still activity. People spend too much time for the activity in home, especially in pekarangan. So this is very hot. It was very hot news or viral in social media. I will also say again about the amaryllis in the Patuk Gunung Kidul here, Yogyakarta. So this is the house, and then in front of the house there is the large area about 3,000 meters square. Pak Sukadi, this is the owner of pekarangan. So in 2002, he collected the bulb of amaryllis that people trust this bulb as a wild plant in the food plantation. So Pak Sukadi collected and planted all of the bulbs. Now it's about 500,000 amaryllis flowers here. So after 13 years in 2015, bulbs, the amaryllis are blooming in the same time as flower bed. Now this was not what Pak Sukadi's purpose, which amaryllis were blooming, create the flower bed. So people come and see and come to this pekarangan, so take a picture. Yeah, maybe this is a very unique in Yogyakarta and rare place. Yes, I think. So this is the unique. The amaryllis flower is only blooming about 2 weeks in the beginning of rainy season from September or December. So this is a rare and unique view. So people visited and took a picture to update their status in social media. So we can take beautiful background of amaryllis orange flowers with friends and so on. So pekarangan can bring us all the happiness. Okay, we go to the Jogja philosophy plants. Yes, Jogja has many philosophy meaning of plants, especially that planted in the city, such as in pekarangan or as an urban greenery. First, we see map or gayam tree. So I just see in the internet what is the common name of Inocarpus fagifer. So now gayam tree is planted in Malioboro Street, popular street in Yogyakarta. Also, Malioboro Street is a philosophy axis of Yogyakarta city. So gayam has a philosophy meaning in serenity, in life. So the second tree is tamarind, Assam Jawa, Javanese tamarind, Tamarindus indica. Also has a philosophy meaning of young soul, energetic. So yeah, this is people, if plant these trees, maybe the people believe that the owner of the house, for example, planting in pekarangan, have a young soul, or also to be young and younger, as I hope, yes, and then energetic. So I think tamarind trees to also have many benefits for biodiversity, like birds. Birds is very stay here. So and then tamarind tree also good for the urban greenery. So the third is a burahol couple fruits, Pterocarpus burahol. This is very common very popular in Jogja because couple is an icon plant of special region of Yogyakarta. Couple is an native plant or unique plant. So the fruits are grown on the tree trunk like this. So this is the fruit is very sweet and very good taste in the mouth. So the tree is quite frequently planted in pekarangan in Yogyakarta and surrounding city like Purworejo, Solo, and other cities in Central Java. So couple has a philosophy meaning in Yogyakarta society of Adiluhung. Something is Adiluhung when it holds a highly valued and has to be preserved. Couple in Javanese is means genggam or kepal, means hand grip or fist. Yes, hand grip like this. Yeah, it means people should work in unity hearts and minds. Other trees, sawah kecik. Yes, sawah kecik, Manilka rakauki. Yes, sawah kecik is also for urban greenery or office garden, and then means always in goodness. So maybe people can imagine how the goodness if they live and their work, something like that, I think. And then also Tanjung tree, Spanish cherry, Mimosox elengi, has meanings of to up religion or hardworking. So many philosophies that we can imagine if the tree planted in the area. So Tanjung tree is mostly trees in for the urban area in the Yogyakarta city. So, and then other flowers like Wijaya Kusuma flower or fishbone cactus. This is also very unique. The white flower and very beautiful. Of course, this flower is bloom only in the night at about 10 o'clock in the night, in the evening. In the evening is called night queen. So from 10 o'clock only till 4 hours only blooming. So in my pekarangan, I have Wijaya Kusuma, but I have not ever seen this flower blooming because only people can wake up on the night and see. But this is very unique, and there is a aromatic, very good smell from this flower. And then in Yogyakarta, this is that has meaning of absolute victory. Yes, to be a winner. Yeah. Others, there is a soka flower or jungle geranium. This is also have meanings of happiness. Then this flower is often planted in Yogyakarta area. The flowers color not only red but also yellow, white, and orange. So very beautiful. Yes, this is Malioboros trees that gayam or kepal and also sawah kecik planted here. Then the Malioboros trees is since about 3 years ago has been new design, and then because we want to return the Malioboros tree as a philosophical axis of Yogyakarta city. From the northern of Yogyakarta is Mount Merapi, to the south is the Parangtritis beach. Okay. The last is agriculture and batik. This is in Yogyakarta. Yogyakarta is a batik city. Also, amaryllis flower inspired from pekarangan was made for batik design. It's beautiful and memorable. So this is, if I use this, I remember when I visited the amaryllis garden. So, and then others, this is the paddy field, and paddy or rice can be a motif or pattern of batik design. Also surjan or lurik. So Surjan is clothes, men clothes form, not for women. But the pattern of lurik is also for men or woman. But this is not surjan, but also the pattern is lurik. But the inspiring of surjan surjan agriculture, the pattern like a line form or line shape in the paddy field, yeah, inspired by the surjan, especially in the lurik pattern. And lurik patterns also combined with the batik like this, yeah, both with natural dye and chemical or synthetic dye. Then in Sleman district, north in Yogyakarta near Mount Merapi, Parijoto plant or Medinilla magnificans, this one, and salak fruit are easily found in Sleman as part of pekarangan in surrounding home. A beautiful batik design has come from the imagination, excellent ideas from this vegetation. So the Sleman batik called Parijoto batik, worn by Sleman government officers or official form. This is the batik Parijoto batik, blue Parijoto batik for the official uniform for the Sleman Huts group. Yes. And also in the university, I also use the Parijoto batik as a uniform of informal uniform or official uniform. And we can see this is a pattern, salak leaf, and then Parijoto leaf, and also the fruits. Others, agriculture and batik, there is plans for the natural dyes. There are many references or literatures about natural dyes for batik. Some natural dyes, we can see indigo for the blue dye. We use the leaf of indigo for the blue dye of batik. And then soga jambal tree for the brown dye for batik. Use the skin trunk of this tree. And then we can see the samples of the material of natural dyes for batik, this one. And then others, Javanoni tree roots. Yeah, we use roots, not fruits. Fruits is for beverage, healthy beverage, yes. And then for the brown red color for batik. Also, we now turmeric or kunyit for the yellow dye. This is for the natural dye for food, also for food and for batik also. And then kusumba fruit for the red dye. Yes, for the red dye, this is it use fruits, and then the fruit is dried and then to continue to the batik processing.
Time is up.
Okay, thank you. This is the natural collection of Kampung Kiriloyo, Ibu Kiri. So yes, thank you, Pak Baikuni. This is only we can see the SDGs address for the agriculture in Saujana. Almost all the goals can be utilized from the agriculture. Yes, thank you, Pak Bai.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Vivi. Very excellent presentation. And linking the agriculture with the landscape and the design and even some material for batik dyeing, coloring the batik. And also there are so many inspiration from the agriculture, landscape, and the design, architectural as well design. And now is time for the last but not the least presenter will be Dr. Dwita Hadi RAHMI, MA. She is an architect in the Department of Architecture and Planning, Faculty of Engineering, Universitas Gadjah Mada. And she have a dissertation related to the Saujana Borobudur. Now she will give presentation related to the guideline untuk Saujana. time is yours, Bu Dwita.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Baikuni. Let me share my material.
Yes. Full screen now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, late afternoon, good morning, everybody. I hope you are well. As the last presenter, I want to talk about the need for design guidelines, especially for Jogja Heritage Saujana conservation. Yeah, my outline will be three parts: Jogja as a heritage Saujana, and then challenges of Jogja Heritage Saujana conservation, and design guidelines for Jogja Heritage Saujana conservation. Yeah, Jogja as a heritage Saujana. Yeah, what is Saujana? Yeah, actually, I want to explain to you about what is Saujana, but this afternoon, Professor Ken Taylor has already explained about this. So I just want to add a little about this. Yeah, Saujana. Yeah, in the Indonesian dictionary, the word Saujana literally means as far as the eye can see. So it means there is a place where our eyes can see the surroundings for a long distance. Yeah, and then in the Charter for Indonesian Heritage Conservation in 2003, Saujana heritage is the inextricable unity between nature and man-made heritage in space and time. And in this charter, natural heritage is the natural features such as mountains, forests, deserts, and so on. And then cultural heritage is the creation, feeling, initiative, human works such as tradition, belief, way of life, etc. And then Saujana is dynamic, yeah, always change in the process, and then always move from the past, the present, and the future. So this is where Yogyakarta city is. This is Indonesia, and Yogyakarta is in the Java Island, yeah, and then this is the city of Yogyakarta, and Kraton is the center of the city. Talking about Saujana, we cannot forget about Imogiri. Yeah, Imogiri is a district in the southern part of Jogja, and the history of Yogyakarta began from Imogiri. So if we talk about Saujana of Jogja, then we always involve Imogiri. So Yogyakarta and Imogiri is one unite. Here, the history of the city. Jogja was founded in 1755 by Prince Mangkubumi, our Sultan, the first Sultan of Jogja. And then in 1813, Paku Alaman, the smaller kingdom, was founded by Prince Notokusumo, and then titled Adipati Paku Alam the First. And this is the picture of the Sultan, our Sultan, and our Paku Alam. And because Yogyakarta is the special province, then the Sultan is the governor, and then Paku Alam is the vice president, vice governor. Yeah, and this is the map of Yogyakarta. The palace is in the center of this area, and Paku Alam is here. And during the colonial era, the Dutch housing areas emerged here, Kota Baru here, and then Jedes and Paciro and Sagan here. So I would like to show you the heritage of Jogja in a glance. Yeah, this is start from the elite heritages of Jogja, from the palace, yeah, alun-alun or the yard in front or in the back side of the Kraton, and then big mosque close to the Kraton or palace. And this is the Paku Alaman Palace, Frederick Fort, Taman Sari Water Castle, and Tugu as the landmark of Jogja. And these are buildings from the colonial era, bank, post office, and then Bank of Indonesia. The three of these buildings are in the 0 kilometers of Jogja. And then buildings in Kota Baru here with the architecture style, we call it Indies, which is a mix between Dutch architecture and Javanese architecture. And beside elite heritages, Jogja also has the folk heritage. Kampung, yeah, Kampung become the soul and identity of Jogja. 60% of land in Jogja is Kampung, and Kampung reflects the traditional life of Jogja. And then the Chinatown. We have Chinatown in the center of the city. Yeah, Chinatown also coloring the city. And once a year they have kind of what celebrate the New Year for the Chinese New Year. And this is the traditional city transport modes, the andong, the beca, and the bicycle. Jogja also has traditional food or folk food heritage, yeah. And actually not only the food, yeah, but the way the food is made. This is the gudeg, how to make gudeg, or how to sell gudeg. And this one is the satay. Yeah, satay is like a barbecue. And then soto is like soup. Yeah, and this is the traditional food stall that we can find everywhere. And then traditional dance, drama, and then Ramayana, and then this is the gamelan and shadow puppet. This is the intangible heritage of Jogja. Yeah, you already know batik making, and then also leather puppet making, keris, puppet. Yeah. And also, once a year, the Jogja Palace held the Labuan ceremony for, it means to offer, yeah, offering the Mount Merapi and also the South Sea, yeah, in Parangtritis. So many people wants to see this, and then want also to get the offering. The offering is the many things from the palace. Yeah, and then this is the grebek ceremony in alun-alun. This also once a year held by the palace for blessing, safety blessing of the Sultan. And in this ceremony, we can see the palace soldiers here. And then people also try to catch or to get the food and fruits in this grebek. And people also selling many things of traditional yeah, toys and so on. Okay, that is the yeah, just a glance of the heritage of Jogja. It's very valuable. So, and then also yeah, have a unique form of Saujana. Then we can call that Jogja is a heritage Saujana, not just Saujana, but heritage Saujana. Yeah, Jogja heritage Saujana needs to be conserved, but in fact, many challenges that faced by Jogja in the conservation efforts. Yeah, this I list so many challenges, problems. Yeah, problems in the efforts of conservation. One, the threat to sustainability is increasing with more and more changes to the local landscape and culture. Threat could be from the economic driven or maybe changing of the way of life of the people. And Saujana conservation efforts have not been conducted comprehensively. Yeah, as far as I know, all efforts are partially, part by part, not comprehensive. Yeah. And then there are many weaknesses in Saujana conservation efforts due to lack of understanding, concern, and ability of various parties. This is very important that still there is no the same perceptions and understanding on what is Saujana, what is conservation for Saujana. Yeah. Of various parties, yeah, government, private sector, even university and government, yeah, usually have a different understanding. And then there are no guidelines that give direction to the conservation of heritage Saujana. And many studies of research on heritage have been conducted, as I also did it, but studies with a focus on Saujana are still limited. And the weak policies and laws of Saujana conservation, of course, yeah, and then Saujana conservation practices have not been widely practiced and tend to be partial. Yeah. Okay, these are challenges. So what are needed for Jogja? Of course, agreement on heritage Saujana of Jogja. Agreement, the same perception, understanding, concern, commitment of various parties, and then guidelines or direction is needed for the management and conservation of heritage Saujana. And then, of course, need more studies on the heritage Saujana and need real actions in its management, ranging from planning, design, implementation, and maintenance. Yeah. So Indonesia has regulations, many regulations, and there are here I listed 3 regulations relating to Saujana conservation. Yeah. Law number 11, 2010 on cultural heritage. Yeah. In this law, we cannot find the concept and terminology of Saujana. Yeah, so it's not written in this law. And then law number 32, 2009 on environmental management protection. Yeah, this law is focused on nature, not culture. And then law number 26, 2007 on spatial planning. Yeah, in here, Saujana actually is, yeah, it's not clearly written, but at least, yeah, the determination of the national strategic area is based on the socio-cultural characteristic of the community. So the government of Indonesia has set up the national strategic area, the whole Indonesia, and also national strategic area for tourism. And that is good that it's based also on the socio-cultural characteristics, yeah. But it's very broad, yeah, I think. Okay, and then we also have statutory plan, yeah, statutory plan that each city in Indonesia should has this spatial plan, detailed spatial plan, and then building and environmental planning. Yeah, spatial plan is a policy direction and strategy. Yeah, this is the micro scale with a long-term planning, long-term, medium, and short-term planning. Yeah, and then down to detailed spatial plan. This is the meso is a detailed plan in the meso, and then the micro scale is a building and environmental planning. This is a focus on the physical, yeah, physical planning. Let's say type, number, size, and area of buildings, and then green open space, public facilities, social facilities, and so on. Yeah. So, yeah, we still need guidelines, yeah, for heritage Saujana conservation, yeah, not only Jogja but also Indonesia, yeah. So I want Yogyakarta to have Indonesia to have a comprehensive conservation guidelines for Indonesia heritage Saujana, and then guidelines for tangible forms, but actually this is also based on the intangible one, design guidelines, and then guidelines for the city landscape. This is like Kyoto city landscape, city policy for the landscape policy or guidelines, and then guidelines for intangible forms, yeah, cultural conservation guidelines in Saujana, and then this is also very important, guidelines for disaster mitigation for heritage Saujana. That yeah, I hope Indonesia has this one, disaster mitigation, because the many heritage Saujana in Indonesia, yeah, collapse or destroyed by disaster. Okay. And this is the idea of comprehensive conservation for Indonesia heritage Saujana, yeah, as a guidance. This guideline may include, yeah, the meaning of Saujana. This is should be there is an agreement, yeah, the meaning of Saujana, Saujana heritage or heritage Saujana, and diversity of Saujana in Indonesia. And then inventory and documentation of heritage Saujana in Indonesia. This is yeah, very important to be done, including basic data, yeah, present management, and then what problems arise, and then characteristic and uniqueness of heritage Saujana in Indonesia, criteria for an area considered as a heritage Saujana, and then this one, determination of heritage Saujana that are in threatened condition, yeah. And heritage Saujana conservation principles, yeah, we need this. strategies in heritage Saujana conservation, yeah, what to do, and heritage Saujana management, yeah, the role of all the stakeholders. And what about the design guidelines for Jogja heritage Saujana conservation? Yeah, this design guidelines can be as the design rules, regulation, and guidelines that is used as a conservation guidance, yeah, to give direction for the landscape design of the city, yeah, to enhance the value of Yogyakarta and give benefit to the community. So conservation should give benefit to the community, especially economic benefit. Yeah, and this design guidelines aims to conserve the authenticity and then sense of place and quality of life of the people. But in developing the design guidelines, yeah, should promote the concept of local social and cultural aspects. This is very, very important, and this is the difference between the RTPL, detailed building and environment planning. Yeah, with this, that the design guidelines for Saujana should this one based on the concept of the local social and cultural aspects. The physical environment should be designed that reflect and respect the culture of the community to increase social relationship and economical benefit. Yeah, and this is just my idea of the content of the design guidelines. Yeah. The first is the concept of Saujana heritage. The concept of Jogja heritage Saujana. Yeah, it should be determined. What is the concept of this Saujana? And then the second is inventory and documentation of heritage Saujana of Jogja. Yeah, including the basic data, location, boundary, history, form, function, potency, and so on. Yeah, present management and problems. Yeah, loss of historical buildings, degradation of landscape, loss of scenery. Yeah, actually, this inventory and documentation has been done, but again, impartially. Yeah, for example. In documentation of problems in Kota Gede after the earthquake, yeah, and then also inventory of buildings in some areas in Jogja, yeah. Okay, and then the third is characteristic and uniqueness of Jogja heritage Saujana, historical buildings or city patterns, skins of nature, and maybe other things, yeah. And then city regulations, I don't know, these regulations or guidelines or policies that improve cityscapes. Yeah, but this again should be based on the local culture of the people. Yeah, renovation of old buildings, design of new buildings. Yeah, adaptive reuse and yeah, and so on. Yeah, historical streetscape design, signage, outdoor advertisement, vegetation, landscape regulation and standard, vista view, conservation zone designation, yeah, historical landscape district conservation, yeah. Here, let's say the vista view conservation zone designation, yeah. Jogja actually has potential on the landscape, the scenery, or the scenic beauty of vista, but it is neglected. Yeah. For example, from the city, we can see or enjoy Mount Merapi. Yeah, Mount Merapi. We can see Mount Merapi from the city. Yeah, but when there are a lot of a lot of buildings with let's say high-rise building, then we cannot see this beautiful Mount Merapi again. Yeah. So how these guidelines could have kind of rules for buildings, not to cover the view to the mountain. Yeah. Okay, and then design guidelines for Imogiri area. Yeah, I put here maybe becoming a part of this design guidelines for Jogja, or maybe could be different. So I mean a special design guidelines for Imogiri area. And then involvement of the community and management and conservation of Jogja Heritage Saujana. And also maybe also the role of the all the stakeholders in conservation. This is the example of inventory. Yeah, it's kind of like that. So before developing the design guidelines, inventory and documentation are needed, yeah, to be done. This is inventory of Imogiri Saujana heritage elements, yeah. It's like this. So we can see a lot of here buildings and also structure and places that are the potencies of Imogiri. Another example is inventory of buildings facade. Yeah, in Siliran Lor. Siliran Lor is close to the palace by Jogja Heritage Society in 2003. Yeah, like this. This is the serial photo of buildings. Yeah. So if we compare 2003 and now, let's say we do also like this in this time, so we can see the difference, the changes of this facade. And this one, inventory of building facade in Malioboro. This is the new one. So I asked permission for this. This by master students in architecture, my students, yeah, and Ibu Sita students also. Finished last week, yeah. And this is also the serial photograph of the facade of a part of Malioboro. So in here we can see how much changes in these buildings. If we have also the old pictures of this, then we can compare. Okay, and this is also example of inventory of heritage buildings in Kota Gede. Yeah. So in here, this is the documentation also, yeah, with the code, and then the name of the owner, the address, and then type of the houses, and then year of building, and yeah, it is function or not in function. It's like this. And yeah, it is the data one by one of the houses here with the type of houses, traditional houses, joglo, limasan, or jengki houses. It's like this. So one by one has the data. And maybe like this, we have the strategy and plan. So let's say maintain a panoramic view of Mount Merapi in the north of the city. Then maintain a panoramic view. Then the plan is set up panoramic viewing spots And yeah, in the few directions. So from this plan, then the detailed plan and then the design. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, this is just an example. And yeah, this is also example of the idea to develop Imogiri, a village. Yeah, this is the thematic studio, yeah, architectural studio. My students and Ibu Sita students in 2016 and 2017. At that time, the title is Eco Museum and Hospitality Design. So since Imogiri is a batik area, then actually batik and Saujana could develop together. So in here, you can see, let's say, Joko Pertiwi Memorial Park. Yeah, Joko Pertiwi is the batik crafters. Yeah, very popular there. Yeah, and then this is the Memorial Park, and this one is nature living in Riverside. Yeah, yeah. This is just the idea of architectural design. But yeah, I think it's good, yeah, for Imogiri. Yeah. Okay. And this one, yeah, Eco Museum. Yeah. And yeah, it's a homestay. It's like this. And now many people has homestays with traditional style of architecture. This one is there is an agreement. This is Ibu Sita agreement to conserve limasan. Agreement among the community to conserve limasan is a traditional house like this. For hospitality design, for everything, for homestay or for museum or etc. And now the people tend to choose this kind of style of architecture rather than the modern one. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Terima kasih. Thank you, Pak Baikuni. Yeah.
Terima kasih, Bu Dwita. Presenting the very important about the guideline of the heritage conservation, Saujana heritage, and we can learn from Professor Ken Tyler. He have some issue linking of the human nature and culture, and then some definition on the heritage and heritage conservation, that it is not only the material but also the intellectual value system, spiritual lifestyle, way of living together, traditional and belief, etc. That's very interesting foundation for our discussion. And then Renata Bornberg, she explored the wine landscape of Alpen with the production and the heritage conservation of the urban industry of wine, and also how the important the local association, local participation, and an effort of village protection and improvement in innovation of art and culture. Then Dr. Helene explained about the historical and art and architectural, especially the mosque with the very unique roof stages in the some archipelago country in the Southeast Asia, including Indonesia. And she has explored some work related to the how the past, present, and future of conserving the such kind of unique building and relevancies of the dynamics today's of the material building and also lifestyle of the people. And then Bu Vivi linking the agriculture, landscape, and organic craft. And the last one, Bu Dwita, have explored how the guideline can directing the effort and program to improve and also conserve the Saujana heritage. Now it's time for discussion. There are some questions in the chatting, but I will give opportunity to speak before the audience. Ibu Laretna Adisakti, mungkin Ibu Sita, you want to make some notes for before question and answer, please.
Sorry. Okay, Pak Bai. Thank you for all panelists. It is very important to enrich all the participants of the summer course, that we can learn from Wakafele, we can learn from Australia, we can learn from point of view that Helen mentioned about the importance of the sustainable architecture and arts as well, and also from our mentor, in this case, Ibu Vivi and Ibu Dwita. And Ibu Dwita has give us the, yes, like Pak Bai mentioned, this is really the directions of us, what we're supposed to do to prepare the comprehensive guidelines to foster what is our goals. Yes, our goals in the summer course is balancing creative economy, in this case batik, and batik is going to be the organic crafts that can conserve the Saujana to foster the sustainable developments. Okay, let's discuss a lot of questions and comment in this case. Monggo Pak Bai.
Masih mute Pak Bai.
Pak Bai masih mute ya.
Okay, now we open for the question and answer and discussion. Please, maybe Ibu Tali, you raise your hand and please open mic and time is yours to discuss and comment and answer questions as well.
Thank you very much. It has been wonderful, amazing, inspiring, really inspiring, and giving deep points for thought. I'm a student in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and I'm studying Indonesian studies. I also studied in the past archaeology, and I'm working in tourism for more than 20 years in Indonesia. So out of these three aspects of studying Indonesian studies, being an archaeologist, and working in tourism, this whole summer seminar and especially panels and forums are very interesting for me. I would like, before I have an important question, I think I wrote it for Helen, I would like to present it, but before that, I want to contribute a saying, a line out of one of the national poets in Israel, Chernyhovsky, who wrote in 1925, I just found and made the connection. He wrote, "A man is but the imprint of his native landscape." The man is the imprint of his native landscape. This is, in maybe other words, Saujana. My question goes back to the presentation of Helen, talking about the meaning of Besaki Temple, when she pointed out that it is very complicated to put Besaki or any Balinese structure for this matter under UNESCO guidelines. It is because in Bali, like you said, it is actually a Saujana island. And the building, whether it is a private building or a temple, it is a living building. The materials are a living building. To renew a roof in Bali of a house or a temple, it is a religious ceremony. It is the same thing in Toraja. When they have to renew the roof of the Tongkonan, it belongs to the ceremonies of life. The whole community takes place because the renewal is shows the connection between life and the architecture. This is when there is religious meaning to Saujana. Going back to the wooden roof of the mosque, which was so interesting to hear in the lecture, the roof of the Javanese mosque, as I see it, has no religious meaning. It has a deep cultural meaning. It reflects the Indo-Islamic culture of Java, but no religious meaning. So when Helene explains that it is very complicated to preserve a new thatched roof, for example, for this mosque, it is true. But if the mosque is rebuilt by cheaper materials, by cement, but keeping the design, that is still keeping the heritage. Because in this case, the design reflects the heritage, not the meaning of it, just the design is the point. My question is, after this long introduction, when I see completely different types of mosque, in Surabaya, I see the Middle East type mosques. This brings into my mind a different meaning. When there is a change, a complete change, this brings to my mind immediately, as an immediate association, the more orthodox meaning of Islam from the shape of the building. I may be touching a sensitive topic that I have no intention to go into it, but I just want to ask Helen or ask anyone else, if the changing of the design sometimes has very deep meaning, not just forget the tradition and build a zinc roof because it's more practical. There is a specific intention by the design. So that is my question.
Okay, thank you, Tali. We can collect one in 3 in 1. After that, we have some discussion from the presenters. The second one, any raising hand? Or directly open mic and please to.
I saw Maudi.
Maudi, yeah. Maudi, where is Maudi now? Maudi Sandra, yeah? Or terlempar? Oh, if not, the Jessica Agusna. Then if Maudi come in, then we will give opportunity to her as well. Jessica Agusna, please. Time is yours.
Thank you. It's really good things that I heard for the first time about the Saujana. And now I have a question about the Saujana. As we know, that's the well-being, the landscape, it's also good for a well-being and the health mental. In some countries, they have a large garden or something kind of the city garden or the farm garden for the healing space or the healing spot. My question is, can we make the Saujanas is related to the art and culture? Can we make Saujana as the healing space, or can we relate it? Is there any related Saujana and the well-being for the open space? Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. One more
Comment from Pak Imran Tajudin.
Okay, yeah. Pak Imran, you can open mic and.
Okay, I thought I didn't expect that I'll be called upon. I have written the question, but I think maybe just to also respond to I think the roofs of these mosques it might not be so it might not be so easy to say quickly that it has no religious significance as such. Maybe what it has instead is I believe from my study there is a religious significance attached. Putting that aside, but that religious significance has to do with a reinterpretation, which is sometimes forgotten today. But if we look at the earlier sources, contemporaneous sources from earlier centuries, there seem to be some indication there was some meaning attached to it. From the Islamic perspective, the reinterpretation of the roof, the idea of the roof form. But more importantly, putting that aside, I think it's more relevant for the Saujana concept to also look at the socio-cultural significance of the act of communal rebuilding or rethatching or re-roofing. And the examples we have from Haruku as well as from Trusmi in Cirebon, if we heard just now, Helen mentioned, right, that Pak Revianto Budi Santosa has written a book on Trusmi, the re-roofing. So he has documented on that, and that is a very important community event, which actually has close association to the religious officials at Kramat Buyut Trusmi. So, there are other examples, I'm sure, whether it's related to mosques or not, but related to structures across Indonesia that all fall into the same spectrum. So I wonder, it's an open question whether anybody in the audience know of more examples that Helen was asking about. And then maybe more directly to Helen, when you look at the Haruku and other Eastern Indonesian examples, do you know whether there is at the ground level, maybe between the local Bupati or the local RT RW, is there some kind of a support system that incorporates officialdom, or is it entirely local? That means just the community has nothing to do with any connection to state structure support at all. It's quite an interesting one, at a very local level in Eastern Indonesia, whether you see something is happening from, let's say, local initiative connected to people who hold official posts, or maybe there isn't any at all. And then what further potential that kind of goings on or happenings at the local level tell us about, what can be done perhaps. Thank you.
Thank you, Imran. Since there are a lot of questions or discussion to Helena, I will ask you to first respond, and then Renata, and then Bu Vivi and Dwita. Please, time is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a challenging question. Sorry, how do I pronounce your name?
Tali.
Tali. Okay, sorry. Tali. Sorry. This is a very challenging. You know why? Because studies are still being carried. There's a very few experts working on not specifically a mosque, but this question of religion. What is Javanese Islam? What is Indonesian Islam? And I believe from Israel, there's a few great experts there that you have been in touch with. So first of all, I think, what do you mean by religion? I mean, that should be defined, especially in the question of mosque. As Imran was saying, there's so many levels of this. Of course, when has the meaning entirely, has the previous meaning of wooden architecture, pre-Islamic meaning of wooden architecture entirely disappeared? I very much doubt it. Imran was talking about a reinterpretation. I think has very much been going on. If you look at only one example, which is the Demak Mosque, right? The two central pillars have a very important meaning about the history, and so we're talking about the pillars themselves, we're talking about elements of architecture that have been that were very meaningful in the pre-Islamic period, but they have been interpreted here. Every one of Islamization saints in Java called wali, the 4 of the most important wali songos are supposed to have funded and built these 4 pillars, which are in pre-Islamic Java very important elements. In a few mosques in Ambon, in Maluku as well, you still have, one of the 4 pillars is also a very important element, carrying very, heavy meaning of, life and death. I would be very surprised. Those haven't been erased at all. Those meanings haven't been erased. You can still find them there. If you interview the local caretakers of those mosques, not necessarily the imam, but the customary caretakers who are in charge of the restoration, they will tell you lots of stories that you can definitely relate, link back to pre-Islamic beliefs. So that is definitely not out. If you interrogate customary just juru kuncis, about the meaning of those superimposed roof, you will have all sorts of stories that have nothing to do with the Quran, if you want to talk about Islam, and that is all very, very intricate. All these meanings are very, very much intricate. Once again, I'm not a specialist of, and I would love to hear ethnographers about this, but I'm not a specialist of especially Eastern Indonesian mosque. I'm starting to look at this, but definitely you find a lot of architectural elements that are, that are outside of religious or simply mosque architecture. You have a lot of these elements still there in mosque architecture. Just one thing also about religious or non-religious. Yeah, sorry. So I ended my talk asking for which mosque should we look at, which wooden mosque should we look at? Because indeed, as you were mentioning, Tali, now there are many mosques that are built in concrete with these kuba, of a bit uncertain. I'm not even sure they're really completely Middle Eastern or anything. This is a very great mix of everything, Persian or whatever. Imran is more specialized in contemporary mosque than I am. But indeed, this is a completely, in those mosques, definitely, I would say, the meanings, the pre-Islamic meanings are very much gone, and I wouldn't be surprised if some elements are still there, even if the shape is completely different. But indeed, we're not talking about those, right? I mean, if communities want to have those kind of mosques, then what can you do? You're not going to impose them to entirely annihilate the mosque and rebuild something more traditional. Of course not. But for those, I think what is important here, the question I was asking was more about those mosques that still exist, and not just the mosque, but the knowledge that still exists around these mosques. How could it be preserved, and how could those communities and their knowledge and their landscape, this is why we're talking about Saujana, and the landscapes that allow these mosques to be rebuilt in a traditional way, how can those be helped? How can those be sustained? I'm looking at my notes. Did I answer, or at least partly?
I will comment on it. First of all, I appreciate what Imran said because he put my word, made me understand. I didn't phrase it quite what I meant. I didn't mean to talk about the religious meaning because, like Imran said, there is religious meaning in the roof going in the multi-layered roof, even in Islam when it adopted it. I meant to ask more about the image that when I see the shape of the multi-layered roof, it brings to my mind an image of a specific Islam, of the Javanese Islam. I don't see this type of roof in any other Muslim country. So this brings an image. When I see the shape, without relating meanings into it, but when I see the shape of a Middle Eastern or I don't know, Arabian mosque or Persian mosque or those mosques with the many minarets, it brings to mind like an instinctive image of a different Islam. So I'm not talking about, this is more what I meant to ask. So when you are talking about heritage and keeping the tradition, because this was the whole point. So my question is, wouldn't it be in a way still keeping the heritage if for technical reasons or other reasons it's too complicated to build the multi-layered roof with organic materials, but build it in concrete, but keep the shape, because the shape is the importance, not the material. The shape reflects the type of Javanese mosque. This is what I'm asking.
But sorry, but what is the question?
Well, wouldn't it be heritage, keeping heritage and preserving, if you keep the design but in different materials? If the problem is too complicated, too expensive, I don't know, to build it from the organic materials, isn't the shape the important matter?
Yeah, there are actually many mosque builds, you know, where that superimposed roof system or shape has been kept. No, they're
so that's heritage. That's keeping the heritage.
But maybe I can say something in between.
Say again?
Maybe I can say something in between because I maybe say it from the point of view of an architect. I mean, every structure was in first place because the material you use and the importance that you have something, for example, a roof must be something to protect you from rain, sunshine, wind, etc. And each material gives you a certain idea how to use it. So it doesn't make sense to make a construction only because it was always done like this in another material, most probably. Or what we can also see over the lifetime of buildings or also from construction sites, in the end of the day, you will see that something that was built in stone in the first place and then rebuilt in timber, for example, the construction will change over time simply because it's logic. And every material has a certain logic. And I think only to say that this and this and this has the meaning of, I don't know, it may also be a town hall that has a certain, or a men's house can also have, in Africa, we have lots of men's houses, so women's houses where they just come together and they have a certain shape, but only because the material that was used and the environment plus other factors shape the buildings like that. And I think heritage can only mean that we also protect not only the meaning of a mosque and the outlook of a mosque, but also its construction must be somehow related to all this. Otherwise, it's fake, and we always can use another shape as well. So this will be very, very shortly a question.
May I ask you something, Renata?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, this is an important point. At the same time, there are so many examples of using the original shape with different materials to reflect to that tradition. It was in one of the one of the slides in this panel. There was a a photo showing Malioboro Road with the gate, the entrance gate to the Chinatown. Originally, all the Chinese constructions were made of wood. This is a concrete, but with the upturned eaves, because this is the symbol and it reflects the Chinese culture. So if I see a mosque that for any reason has to be made differently, but it will keep the shape of the roof, this brings back what I called an image. Maybe I'm using the wrong word, but this is what I meant. This immediately throws into my mind everything that stands behind the Javanese culture, just the design.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, you're absolutely right, and I agree to what you're saying, but we always have to have in mind that with concrete, you could do anything. And if it's just then in a certain phase, it's going to be only a picture and is absolutely not anymore related to the construction, then I'm afraid that this is not heritage, but this is just a fake thing. We can do Disney World then. And I mean, it's a very narrow line between those things, yeah? It's not that I say this is one side and 100 kilometers away, there is the other side. It's really a very, very short trail where we can go. But we must avoid to have Disney World in the end of the day and just rebuild everything with plastic, with concrete, because everything's available, everything's possible. So my point is that there is a reason why the roofs look like that, partly because of the construction, partly because of ventilation. I mean, particularly in Java, it's very important. And also in Indonesia, complete Indonesia has very often these high roofs to let the air flow through and then also take out the hot air and bring it out again. So these are all this is the logic of the building. And with concrete, we can do anything. That's the problem today. And I've seen lots of buildings that have been built in concrete and they are not fit for the climate anyway. And we have to be very, very careful on that. But again, I agree. I mean, if this is the picture and we want to keep it and there is no other available material, that the local materials that were always used are not there anymore or too expensive, I'm still not quite sure if that's really a solution, because maybe we should foster that the buildings, I mean, the mosques were built not with concrete, they were built with other materials in the first place. So why not reintroduce those techniques and say, okay, there is a certain logic that has to do with Islam, that has to do with the mosque, but also with the local area, with the local environment, and with the local building materials. I think that's more the heritage.
Okay, thank you. Helena, you want to add some more discussion, or should I go to Dwita?
Yeah, sure, Dwita. While I prepare the other answer, maybe Dwita wants to chip in.
I think I just answered the Jessica. Yeah, Jessica. About the Saujana, yeah, Saujana is, in short, is the interaction between human and nature, yeah, nature in the form of climate, landform, geology, hydrology, flora, fauna, yeah, influence human life, which further affect the character of the human culture, while human with their culture affect the natural features. Yeah, the results is the landscape with socio-culture of the people. So if there is an open space with many kinds of plants, then I can say that that is the product of Saujana. Yeah, not the Saujana. The Saujana is that open space with the life of the people surrounds the open space. That is the Saujana. Yeah, I think like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Helena, you still have answer for some other questions?
Yeah, no, I just like to develop a little bit Tali's question. I mean, it is an interesting question. What to do if the, does a building stop being heritage building if the original materials are transformed. I mean, not without talking about concrete, if a mosque that had a thatch roof is suddenly restored with a zinc roof, which was the case in the mosque in Maluku that I just showed, and then transformed again, and then restored again, sorry, with thatch. During that time, during the time that it was covered with zinc roof, did it stop being heritage? It's an interesting question that the heritage makers, which I'm not, will have to decide with the users of these mosques, because it is indeed a problem. I mean, the means are not always there, right? The financial means, etc. To answer Imran's question about state structures. If I'm not wrong, in Indonesia, you have this, you have the Cagar Budaya law. The last one is 2010, if I'm not wrong. All these ancient structures are de facto under this law. A few mosques in Maluku are quite ancient as well, 15th, 16th, 17th century, etc. So definitely they would be under, from what I understood, different Balar, BPCB, and different Indonesian authority, legally. However, they are also customary. They actually belong. They are private. Some of them are private properties, right? So that's what make it a little bit complicated. So under the customary law of those communities, without going too far east, in Java as well, if you go to those mausolea, the Islamic mausolea sites, they also belong to. They're also private. So they have a say in everything that pertains to heritage, and the way they want to restore, etc., etc. So yes, it is a bit complicated. I don't know if there's anyone from the government here that could witness, that would give a testimony about the intricacy of these rules. But yeah, it's really it sometimes is quite complicated between one site to another, because a lot of them are private associations, in fact.
Okay, Ibu Vivi, you want to answer some of the question?
Just breaking the fast, sorry. Fasting. Okay, I just add the HR from Dwita for the Jessica's question, and then I think correlating with between Saujana and healing garden, right? Healing activities. So Saujana, Dwita explained about social activity in Saujana or cultural landscape. So I think especially in green area or nature or agricultural areas like rice field or plantation, it's believed also, or gardening, it believes also contribute to healthy, our healthy body, right? And then this is with by healthy activity like doing the healthy therapy for the older people, maybe for the child with the problems of health, and then so I think there is a strong relation between Saujana and healing garden or healing activities, something like that. Yes, just add to Dwita's answer. Okay.
Thank you. Now it's going the second session. Tanya, please open your mic.
Yes, I have a comment to make. I am an artist and researcher. It's my chance. Thank you. So I am an artist and researcher working in natural dyes and studying traditional techniques. So this is related to the question of whether the material is important in saving, when with the heritage, should the material also be saved? I mean, is it the shape or the material? And I feel that from my personal experience, I feel that using natural material to make my work, and I learned traditional techniques of natural dyeing from the traditional craftspeople here in India. And I feel that it gives a totally different meaning to your work if you also conserve the material part of the technique and not just the motif or the design part of the technique. And this is, I'm talking from my personal experience, but how to conserve it, how to bring it back, how to bring back the knowledge, how to bring back the material, because it is fast disappearing. That is the challenge that I face. I think many of us are facing, and many of the traditional craftspeople are also facing. Okay. And we need to address that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, this is the second participant who want to raise the question, please.
Ibu Ria from Hasanuddin.
Ibu Ria from Hasanuddin, please.
Thank you, Ibu Ratna Sita. Actually, thank you, Bapak Baikuni, for the opportunity. Actually, I just would like to comment for Dr. Renata Bornberg. First of all, her presentation is very interesting, and it's in a small town, small, but actually not small, in Austria. I've never been to Europe, so it amazed me how that her presentation, Dr. Bornberg's presentation, in my opinion, it shows a unique life cycle of industry-based town, that it has the cultural landscape also changes over seasonal time annually. It's amazed me because in Indonesia we have like Ibu Sita said at the first time that we have summer all the time. So your presentation very amazing, showing a very small town but very lively with focusing on the winery industry. That shows the sustainable life cycle. Actually, I was just wondering that what kind of factors that could change that situation. It's like anxiety, like how if something happened and then this life cycle that very traditional and unique could change. What kind of factors that could change for this situation? That's I'm wondering actually. And then for Miss Helene NJOTO or NJOTO, it's like Japanese name, NJOTO. Miss Dr. Helene NJOTO. Your presentation about the cross-cultural places, yeah, of cross-cultural wooden mosque is very interesting. And you asked something, but I didn't really catch your question. But I just got, in my humble opinion, I catch that your question about how is the preservation. And I think, in my humble opinion, that this preservation needs strong customary or religious law that foster the maintenance of carpentry and the related craft skills of creative arts by local builders. That includes the needs for the regeneration of young builders, usually traditionally through apprenticeship, I think, yeah. But I think it's also important that if in the area also available vocational relevant schools, so vocational about the traditional building craftsmanship, for example. And also it's important the conservation of the habitats of debts and other organic materials for building. I think that's my humble opinion. I don't know if it's contribute a little bit for the question. And for Ibu Nurul, Ibu Dr. Nurul and Ibu Dwita, thank you very much. Your presentation is so inspiring and delightful and very useful, I think. Thank you, Pak Baikuni. Saya kembalikan. Thank you very much.
Antari, thank you very much for your comment and question.
Yes.
Somebody else want to raise the hand and open the mic? Okay, if not, then please, Renata, you can answer.
I will try to answer these very, very interesting and very important questions. The first one about material and construction. I mean, every material has a very, very own way of using it. So if we're working with clay, with earthen buildings, it's a complete different approach, not only how to make it, but also what we achieve. Because, for example, we know that clay or earthen buildings, they are very, very good in desert regions where we have the very, very cold nights and the very hot days. Because if you have a certain layer of clay, then over the day, the heat will go slowly in, and then overnight it will cool out from the outside to the inside. So that means during the day inside more cool than outside, and during the night you will benefit from the warmth. This is something that we won't like in regions like where we have lots of monsoon, where we have lots of humidity, where we have lots of heat all day and night as well. So that means every construction has a certain idea behind it. It has a certain way how to use it and why I will use it, etc. And this is something that has over generations be built in every region according to the landscape and to the climate. And therefore, it is very, very important to not only not forget the old techniques, but also develop them on and build on those old techniques and bring them into the future. And never forget what you have done and why you use timber and why you use, for example, a timber frame construction and nothing else. This about material and construction. And the second question was about life cycle in cultural landscape. And the question was, how would it change if this cycle would change? And now I try to share my screen once again. And I hope you see that now. Can you see that picture of the machine within the vineyard? So I hope you see it. I mean, what I try to show here is that here the vine trees are much higher than in the Wachau at the moment. The distance between the lanes is much long, it's much wider. And that means the whole production changes and also the whole, the landscape changes, because now at the moment in the Wachau we have very, very narrow lanes where as a person, as a human being, you can touch the left side, you can touch the right side. It is only meant that one person has an easy access to the vine trees and just to collect the grapes. If you have machines, then the whole thing changes completely. And that's what I'm saying. We have to stop that, even if this life cycle might be better or more efficiently used by tractors or machinery. And this life cycle can also change from another point of view, because nowadays, since labor costs are very high and machine costs are lower, many people sell their vineyards and then houses are built. And this is the real problem, because then the whole production of agriculture is being lost. And this is also something that we have to fear. I hope I answered that question now. I'm not quite sure. If not, maybe you can ask later once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much,
Very
Renata.
much.
Yeah, Helen, you have some additional answer?
Yes,
Then,
Ibu.
Mbak Vivi, yeah.
Thank you. Ibu Ria, thank you very much. You touched a very important point with apprenticeship. Definitely, I mean, I'm not a heritage specialist, and I'm not a heritage policy maker.
Yeah,
but definitely the key rests in apprenticeship, right? The key to the transmission of this knowledge rests in apprenticeship. At the grassroots level, the problem is how do you preserve this knowledge when how do you teach these new apprentices from the newer generation when everyone's gone to the city and no one is there when the younger generation has gone, you know? That's a question that could be raised. Yes, apprenticeship definitely, but what do you do when the newer generation is not there in the villages anymore? So that's the grassroots level. The state level question could be also, could this apprenticeship, could this knowledge be a little bit better acknowledged and acknowledged and what's the word in English? Better preserved and known to the general public. For example, in Indonesia, you have master puppeteers, you have master batik makers, etc. Do you have master carpenters? You know, I'm thinking about national treasures like in Japan, where they have master carpenters that are nominated, you know, everyone and then to represent their knowledge, to the nation. In Indonesia, what do we have? We have tukang. We have tukangs, right? These master carpenters who have this knowledge, they probably should be also considered as master carpenters, you know, instead of just tukangs. So maybe that on the state level could also be implemented. I don't know. You know, it could be interesting to have that. I mean, these carpenters hold an impressive knowledge, and not just technical, but also, as Ken Taylor was saying, spiritual, emotional, etc., right? Which is part of Saujana. Yeah. That's it for me. I hope I...
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Ibu, for your question.
Bu Dwita dan Bu Vivi, silakan tambahin.
Yeah, sorry, I just break my fasting. Okay. Maybe my point is, if we want to change what is shape of the buildings or material of the buildings, then kind of assessment in the significance of the buildings is needed. Yeah, which is significance to be changed or to be continued, whether it is shapes of the buildings or the materials of the buildings. That's also the design guidelines is important. Although it's for the buildings in the village, like in Flores or in Sumba. So I think Indonesia should have those kind of design guidelines, special for the special place like Sumba or Flores. Yeah, it's for me.
Okay. Vivi, you have any?
Yeah, just little for me. If you are talking about the changes in landscape or the cultural landscape or Saujana, especially in agriculture system like surgeon agriculture or planting philosophy plants in Yogyakarta, in Yogyakarta city or other places in Yogyakarta province, that I think this system is still needed for present. And then I think it is not easy to move or to change by the time. So because the local wisdom influenced by agricultural system, for example, also adaptable or suitable for this period or this seasons, or in Indonesian tropical climate, for example. There is also with the global warming or other climate changing. So actually the agricultural systems in the Saujana is also suitable for the people and agricultural farmers. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. The time is up. Now, if Tali have a short comment, but if the question, I think the time is up. You have want to short comment?
Yes, I will. I have a short comment. I think it will connect some of the things that several people said. It's directly for Renata, for what Renata said about the importance of the local materials. I completely agree. Of course, it's important because originally the people built with what they had in their surrounding, and they lived in a natural surrounding. So of course, people with trees built with trees, and according to the climate, and people in the desert built with different materials. But at the moment, we are in a situation that the natural resources where we live are not the same as those that developed the shape and the type of constructions that we live in. So maybe in the future of conserving heritage, there may be a combination to show the complete Saujana connection between all the parts. Of course, we need to have the original construction, original materials and concept and everything. But if it's not possible to do it everywhere in a community, then it could be a combination that some places will keep the heritage of the shape, even though that it's not complete and will include also the material. And of course, it is part of it, but it is better than to lose it completely. And when you bring back to the mosque, when you bring into Indonesia, like it was said, the climate needs wantilan, open spaces, a high roof. When you bring a mosque from a totally different part of the world, the shape of it is brought into Indonesia. It was not developed organically in Indonesia. It brings to mind a different reason. It is not a matter of heritage. It brings to mind a different reason. Heritage is whether to reconstruct the mosque, the shape of mosque, multi-layered, the Javanese style. The question is to rebuild it in concrete or in wood. This is a question of heritage. Bringing in a different type of mosque is not a question of heritage. It brings a different aspect.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the comment. And next Saturday, we still have the forum again. I think the time is up. I'm not concluding this very beautiful and cheerful discussion. It is recorded, and also it will be some kind of open-ended learning. And next week, we still have some deep discussion again. Thank you very much. I will hand it this opportunity to the host, Dr. Laretna Adishakti. Time is just Bu Sita. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. And this is really something. We learn a lot, and of course, many questions still. And I still have another question also for you before we close this event. The question is regarding, now back to the batik. Is this, I have a problem with mine. Okay, I'll try to start. I just got a message from several people. This is mentionings about the Is this I stop?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Sure, sure.
Yes, but this, I don't know. I cannot share this.
Yeah, we don't see your screen, but we can hear you. We can see
okay.
you.
Okay. Oh, almost.
Now it's okay. Now we see another screen.
Okay, this one.
Yeah.
This products made in Yogyakarta and then sent to Uniqlo. You can see here is Uniqlo, the product, and the one that learning about the batik, you understand that batik has two sides. You can see from here that this one is not, this one. Okay, this, the upside down is not the real batik. So this is, who made this one? It's factory. It's not handmade, no chanting, no print, no wax. Can we still say as a batik collections? The ones that already also inscribed by UNESCO? Mentioning this is the traditional things. So this is a questions. So the answer you can discuss by all of you. And next week we will meet with the forum of the Third International ePublic Forum and the role of community on the cultural and natural heritage conservations. We will have for the panelists, Professor Dr. Kyoko Kanki, she is here, the Pasek Nayak, architects from Ahmedabad, colleagues of my colleagues here is from Ahmedabad also. And then, and then there's supposed to be changed Andrea into Uli. And then my students, Mutia, Uli from the TU Wien, and then Mutia from the students, master students, will also develop contribution from the students. And Professor Baikuni, he will be also presented next week. And it will be opened by Professor Insinyur Nizam. He is the Director General of Higher Education, Ministry of Education, Culture, Research, and Technologies. That actually, they have a program on what is called the Campus Merdeka. Campus Merdeka mean what you can say, free campus that we can collaborate to teach students like what we have right now. Okay, so once again, thank you very much to all panelists. We appreciate to them and the moderator, Pak Baikuni. And see you next week.
Thank you, Bu Sita.
Yeah, thank you. So, see you again. We will put, I saw the comment from Kanki Sense.